Today, we are going to go through, we are going to talk some Dynasty Fantasy Football strategy. We are going to talk some Dynasty Fantasy Football trades. And of course, we will have a very exciting draft going on in the background. Y'all know what we are doing. Let's go. Let's not waste any time. Let's hop into this draft. I will pull up this chat so we have some trade questions that we can start answering. It looks like there are 6 spots open in this league. If anybody wants to come hop in with us, we'll probably get a few drafts going this live stream as we always do, because I'm sure we'll have a decent amount of questions coming out. Okay, so I think we just set up the chat, so we should have some questions flowing in now. Okay, let me pull this up. Okay, draft room filled. We are at the 102. Okay, so I'm assuming we are going to end up getting Cooper Kupp. If we don't get Kupp, fine. I'll take Jonathan Taylor. And we have HK Survivor, Graylin, Falony, Blind Luck Poker, Matt, Thomas, Dillon, the legit Thomas out here, Deezonators, and Giddy Up. Thank y'all so much for coming out to the live stream. Let me send out a link to Underdog Fantasy real quick. If for whatever reason, I'm assuming everybody in this chat has already signed up. I'm assuming people already know how to hop in a draft with us, but just in case you don't, also let me set up a poll real quick. Let me remind you, if you have not dropped a like on the live stream, fix your life. Drop a like on the stream. Subscribe to the channel if you play Dynasty Fantasy Football. And our first question, at least the first one that I see coming out from Giddy Up, says CeeDee Lamb or Jalen Waddle and Amon-Ra St. Brown. If it's going to be a 12-team league where we're starting 11 or more options, I honestly don't mind the idea of just going through and getting Jalen Waddle and Amon-Ra St. Brown, given the fact that St. Brown most likely is going to guarantee you a flex play for years to come in that format. And in that format, that wide receiver floor and security that you are going to get will be very valuable. Now, if you're playing in like a 10-team league where you only start 10 guys, there I tell you, you know what? Who the hell cares? Just go get CeeDee Lamb. Just get the stud. Let's not overthink it. But once you get to that deeper format, I think picking up an extra player like Amon-Ra St. Brown that you can start every week will be advantageous. And let's go through, find our next question. And this next question is going to be coming out from Matt. It says, Cortland Sutton or a 2024 first-round pick? I'm assuming everybody knows my answer to this. I'm assuming, Matt, you know my answer to this. Yes, I'm selling Cortland Sutton for a first-round pick every single time I can. Cortland Sutton is a 27-year-old wide receiver whose highest finish ever was, you're not going to believe me on this one, but a high-end wide receiver 3. His highest finish ever, Cortland Sutton, a wide receiver 25 on a per-game basis, and the man's about to turn 27. If you look at games that Cortland Sutton has played with Jerry Judy since Jerry Judy's been drafted, Jerry Judy has almost doubled the man in points per game. Jerry Judy is 4 years younger. I know you have the Cortland Sutton hype right now with Russell Wilson. Love the idea of taking advantage of it and going through and selling for the first. I need to stop talking about this, though, because it's the only thing that I talk about, and I know all I do is piss people off when I say it. Okay, so now our next question going to come out from Naveen, who says, hey, Mason, thanks for your fantasy advice. So we're going to go Cortland Sutton or Devontae Smith in Dynasty. Copy and paste what I just said about Cortland Sutton. We are going to go with Devontae Smith, even though Sutton, I will admit, is in a better situation in that if you're looking at the overall passing volume and efficiency that you'll have in Denver compared to Philadelphia, you're probably going to prefer Denver. But Devontae Smith, better prospect. Devontae Smith showed a promising rookie season. Devontae Smith, also younger. Okay, so now let's go. Dillon says he's at the 108 in this draft. Yeah, so I noticed we have a couple people from the flock out here in this draft. We have Fully Loaded. We have Double D. We have Derek out here. We have Thomas is drafted next to us at the 103 as well. He ended up going Justin Jefferson. So it will be a tough draft to go through. And let's go through. John says Underdog Fantasy is no longer available in Ontario, Canada. So crappy. Yeah, I know Ontario just went out there and took away a lot of the DFS sites. I don't know why they did. I'm not a lawyer. I was listening to a podcast about it, though, and when they are going to get the DFS sites back in Ontario, Underdog should be good for the rest of Canada, though. And our next question coming out from Joey says, Javonte Williams or 2023 first? If you're playing in a Superflex format, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to take the 2023 first. It sucks to say, obviously, Javonte Williams would have been in a beautiful spot this upcoming season if it wasn't for one man and one man alone coming back to ruin all the fun for everyone. It sucks, but Melvin Gordon's there. Melvin Gordon averaged more carries per game and Melvin Gordon averaged more yards per carry last season. Now, of course, I'm projecting Javonte Williams to be the lead running back in the backfield. If I had to pick someone who was going to lead this backfield in overall points, touches, yards, it's going to be Javonte Williams. But I think it's probably closer to a 60-40 split than 70-30. Now, Terry coming out with our next question says, Chase and Barkley for CMC, DeAndre Hopkins, and the 112 in a PPR Dynasty format. Okay, I'm going to prefer, Chase and Barkley there easily. I don't even think we really have to think about it. Maybe if we were looking at like Chase Claypool, if it was Chase Claypool, then it's a conversation. But if it's Jamar Chase, no, it's going to be an easy one. Now, our next one coming out from Chris is, would you trade the 105 into 10-team Dynasty Superflex half PPR? No, 105, you're going to be looking at one of the top 5 prospects. No, that is a teardrop for me. I'm going to be looking to hold on to the 105 pick. If you're at the 106, yeah, probably would look to trade it away. And real quick, I know people are probably wondering, Mason, why the hell did you pass on Barkley? Why the hell did you pass on Nick Chubb to take T. Higgins? If you were wondering that, please just stick in this draft for some time. You're probably new to Underdog Fantasy, but I think it's probably the right call. We'll see how this draft ends through the first 10 rounds. I've already done over 120 of these real money fantasy football drafts. And, I have to say this, if you want to hop into these real money fantasy football drafts, if you yourself want to have a ton of fun, as I do every single day when I draft these, make sure you go to the link in the description of the video, the link in the live chat, the link in the comment section to Underdog Fantasy. Go sign up, use promo code FLOCK. And when you use promo code FLOCK, you can get into drafts with us on the live stream, which we do every single day. And on top of this, you will get our 2022 Dynasty rankings. You will get a 100% deposit match. You will get our 2022 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, over 130 pages. Literally with just a $10 deposit, promo code FLOCK. And you can, $10 deposit, they throw $10 into your account, you got $20, and you hop into 4 of these $5 drafts with us. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Zach says, a 10-team Superflex sold Diggs for Allen Lazard, a 2023 first and a 2024 first. Was contending, but is this too good of a deal? I would say in a 10-team Superflex format, yes, you're going to take those first-round picks, because just think about it. I mean, if we walk through the prospects next year, Jackson's been the jig, but you would take him over Stephon Diggs today. CJ Stroud, you would take him over Stephon Diggs today. Bijan Robinson, you would take him over Stephon Diggs today. Some people would take Bryce Young. You also have guys like Jameer. Get like 5-6 of those picks in the first round are arguably already worth more than Diggs, even if you're a contender. So if you were going to not only get one shot at grabbing one of those prospects, but you're also going to get a second shot in that you'll have a 2024 first as well. 100%. I'm going to cash out Stephon Diggs for Allen Lazard and 2 future firsts, specifically in a 10-team Superflex league. Now, our next question coming out from Garrett says, hey, Mason, Hollywood Brown or David Montgomery and a 12-team Superflex, 2 running back, 3 wide receivers, and 3 flex spots. I'm going to go ahead. I'm going to take Montgomery. I mean, with David Montgomery here, he still is on his rookie contract. Now, that deal ends after this season, but that may be a good thing for Montgomery. I mean, if you go back and if you've seen what we have had from Montgomery over the past 2 years, this is someone that has a 3-down workload consistently. He's pretty much never coming off the, I don't want to say he's Najee Harris in terms of his workload, but he's pretty damn close. Okay, so now our next question. Thomas says, people were funny in this morning premiere. Pittman over T. Higgins, laughing emoji, laughing emoji, laughing emoji. My man, I'm going to continue to fight the good fight. I'm going to continue to advocate for T. Higgins, a younger wide receiver who just posted a top 12 finish at the position when Michael Pittman Jr. was a high-end wide receiver 3 last year on a points per game basis. Now, yes, if you look at raw totals, he was extremely impressive because he played 17 freaking games. Okay. Yeah, we're going to take T. Higgins over him. I know a lot of people want to think that Matt Ryan is going to elevate this offense to an insane degree. I would say, hell, this offense was already top 10 in the NFL last year. Yes, the Indianapolis Colts with Carson Wentz were top 10 in points scored last season. How much better, realistically, do you think Matt Ryan makes them? Okay, so now our next question going to be coming out from Drake says, is a 2023 first and 2024 first enough for Breece Hall in a rebuilding roster? I would say if it's going to be like a 12-team, 1-quarterback format, there it's a fair deal. I think it's up to you. I probably would prefer Breece Hall. If it's going to be like a 10-team Superflex that we just got done discussing, then I think you're fine. I think you can go ahead. Do we want Lamar? Lamar or Akers? I really want Lamar. I'm trying to get Lamar in every league I can. And also Lamar Jackson's one of the quarterbacks that I think you don't have to stack. Okay, so now where were we at? Oh yeah, if it's a 10-team Superflex format, I'm fine going through and selling Breece Hall for 2 future first. We have a donation question coming out from Donald. No question. Says, thanks for everything, Mason. Truly are a goat. The flock hat looks amazing. Thank you, my man. I hope that you have yourself a flock hat. I hope that we... Actually, no. I believe I wrote Donald a thank you letter like about a week ago. The name sounds familiar. So yes, I think we actually shipped that out to you about a week ago. Thank you, my man, of course, for supporting the channel. I promise you I appreciate it. Ryan coming out with the donation question as well. Thank you so much, my dude. Says, new in Dynasty, was given a team in a 12-man PPR non-superflex. Team featured Ezekiel Elliot, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, Zach Ertz, and Gabriel Davis. Turned them into Breece Hall. Okay. Ryan's flexing on everybody here. That's all this is. Occasionally we'll get someone coming out showing us their muscles in the chat. Ryan turned Ezekiel Elliott, Mike Evans, DK Metcalf, Zach Ertz, and Gabriel Davis into Breece Hall, Michael Carter, Jerry Judy, Drake London, and 3 2023 first. And a couple thirds. That doesn't matter. If we go through and if we break this down, I prefer Drake London over Mike Evans in Dynasty. Let's just remove them from or let's go Drake London and DK Metcalf. They're ranked back-to-back in my Dynasty rankings. I think it's up to you. I think you could go either way. So let's remove them from the deal. And then let's try to break this down in another way. Jerry Judy versus Mike Evans. Jerry Judy, right now on Underdog, a redraft format, is going as a mid-wide receiver 2. The man's 23 years old. I think at this point, you have to prefer Jerry Judy over Mike Evans in Dynasty. Let's remove them from the deal because maybe some people would argue the opposite. Albert O and Michael Carter versus Zach Ertz. In Dynasty, I think you probably have to prefer Albert O. So then we're looking at 3 2023 first versus Ezekiel Elliott and Gabriel Davis. Oh man, that is a beautiful trade. Love seeing that. I obviously don't care about the thirds. And I'm not just saying it because obviously you donated and supported the channel. That is fantastic, my man. Thank you. Okay. So let's move on to our next question. And this is going to be coming out from, I believe, Jamie, who says, would you trade Travis Etienne and Tony Pollard for Jerry Judy and Antonio Gibson? I probably would. I mean, obviously, Antonio Gibson has fallen so much, and for the right reasons as well. Like, if you look at what the coaching staff not only has done, but also said this offseason, we probably have to lower our expectations on Antonio Gibson overall and his ability to ever get a true workhorse role there. But still, maybe I'm just too high on Jerry Judy. I'm looking at Jerry Judy and saying, he's a 23-year-old wide receiver. He's younger than Kenny Pickett. And right now in redraft leagues, this Underdog ADP is extremely sharp. Like, legitimately. Y'all don't know how big Underdog is. They've had, at this point, probably $1 million entered into fantasy football contests this offseason. I think that's a safe estimate if we go through and we add up the entries. So it's like $1 million pumped into this ADP. And Jerry Judy is going as a mid-wide receiver 2 in these drafts. The man's 23. He's younger than Kenny Pickett. I love the idea of going out of our way and trading for Jerry Judy in Dynasty. I think that's a good deal. Okay, so now let's go through, grab our next player. Maybe we shouldn't have taken Lamar. Can't go with the tight end here. I would really like a tight end. We took Higgins. We'll go through. We'll grab another quarterback. Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow have the same bye. That is not ideal. Not ideal, especially when we're only going to draft 2 quarterbacks. But Hayden Winks did put out an interesting article talking about building unique teams. And one of the easy ways to build unique teams that does not just completely destroy your EV is going to be going ahead and drafting 2 quarterbacks on the same bye. So yes, our median projection is going to be lowered. But if we're looking at this tournament style format, there aren't going to be too many teams that have the combination of Lamar Jackson and Joe Burrow. So yes, you can argue it's bad. You can argue it's good. I think it's fine when we have the T. Higgins stack. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Justin says, how do you differentiate between players with high floors and low ceilings versus a high ceiling and a low floor? Is it worth to have a team that is completely high ceiling? I honestly think that a lot of people that go through and center their analysis around it's just the range of outcomes of a player. A lot of times people get it wrong. a lot of times people would look at someone like Amon-Ra St. Brown, a slot wide receiver. They would look at Cooper Kupp, the perfect example, a slot wide receiver that does not run routes vertical downfield, that is not racking up a ridiculous amount of air yards per target. And they would unfairly classify that receiver as someone that is low ceiling in favor of someone that is a deeper threat, in favor of someone like a DJ Chark, where, yeah, you know that when he does catch a ball, or another example, Cortland Sutton, another example, DK Metcalf, another example, Michael Pittman. Like, people look at those alpha wide receivers, and in the back of our heads, in our lizard brains, they'll go big, strong, fast, athletic. Christian Watson is another example. He has an elite ceiling, but a low floor. In reality, that's just not how the range of outcomes work on a player. Now, you can say this in specific instances with players that are trapped from getting opportunity. Like, if I was going to mention a player that was a low floor, high ceiling option, you could bring up someone like Alexander Mattison. Alexander Mattison may never give you a single start in fantasy football in 2022, but also he has the ceiling to be a top 5 running back in fantasy. So it's a very complex question, obviously. I would say the traditional way that people evaluate floors and ceilings, specifically at the wide receiver position, is honestly faulted. But I think you can do it in terms of trying to look at where players could potentially get opportunity and what they could do if they were to step into opportunity. I hope that made sense. Please let me know if it did. It probably didn't, though. I know it probably didn't. Now, a Glizglob says, Mason, what's the thoughts on the Breece Hall and Travis Etienne pair? I'm getting it a ton in every league. Okay, I'm assuming you're talking about on Underdog because they go at the 4-5 turn. I love it. I mean, I think if you look at Breece Hall, he's a running back that his overall profile shows he can handle a 3-down workload. He did that in college. There's no reason to expect anything else once we actually get to the NFL. And then if we look at Travis Etienne, I mean, we've been calling DeAndre Swift, Travis Etienne, the new Alvin Kamara, the new Aaron Jones for I don't know how long now. You have a devastating injury to James Robinson. Assuming you're going with a wide receivers early on in drafts, possibly grabbing a Kyle Pitts in round 3, possibly grabbing a Josh Allen in round 3. I'm assuming you're talking about Underdog leagues because I doubt you're hopping into a ton of dynasty drafts right now if you're saying you're getting this combo very often. I really like that. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Gmail user says, how would you approach a league with a half PPR overall and 1.5 PPR for a tight end? Okay, so that is a tight end premium format that is going to matter. We actually wrote a pretty large chapter in our Dynasty research book, available on flockfantasy.com, about tight end premium formats overall. And I think in the majority of tight end premium leagues, you're going to find that drafters really overrate the impact of tight end premium if you're only getting an extra half point per reception. If you look at the overall numbers on how many of those players all of a sudden become actual guys you could consider as a flex worthy starter. Because I know everybody goes, okay, it's a tight end premium league. I'm going to draft me, and I'm using names that I like on purpose. I'm going to go through and I'm going to draft me Cole Kmet, Irv Smith Jr., Mike Gesicki. And I'm going to be able to play every single one of these guys every single week. I'm going to be able to put Mike Gesicki in at tight end, and I'm going to be able to flex both Cole Kmet and Irv Smith Jr. And while in theory that's great, in reality, if you dive into the numbers, if you actually look at it, you go, crap. Even if we're getting an extra half a point per reception, those tight ends are never good flex plays. Like, if you look at the average amount of tight ends that can go in your flex, I think we did the study since like 2017. It's been like about 1.2. This is off the top of my head, so please, if someone has the Dynasty research book on them, please just look it up. But it's been about like 1.2 tight ends per season that can go in your flex spot in a regular league. And then in tight end premium format, that number goes up to like 3. Like, it's not a big gap at all. The majority of teams still should not be flexing tight ends. However, if you're getting a full point per reception, I think you can build around the position. What I would probably prefer to do is understand that those mid-tier tight ends, your league mates are probably going to overvalue. Like Pat Frymuth, perfect example. I think Pat Frymuth probably goes a little too early in that draft. I would love to come away like at the 1-2 turn. If we could start like Kyle Pitts and Mark Andrews and then not worry about the tight end position through the rest of the draft and let our league mates reach on those mid-tier guys, I would really like that. Okay, so now our next question coming out from TJ says, looking to trade my 201, who is worth that? Okay, my man. Way too general of a question. I do not know your format. I do not know if the 201's in a 10-team league, a 12-team league, a 14-team league. I don't know if it's Superflex. I don't know how many starters you have. I don't know if you're a contender. I don't know if you're a rebuilder. Now our next question, coming out from Jack Mance, is Jerry Judy and Travis Etienne or DJ Moore and J.K. Dobbins? Which duo is going to be better? I honestly probably prefer DJ Moore, J.K. Dobbins. I mean, if you're looking at DJ Moore, this is a wide receiver that had 26% team target share last year. That is pretty ridiculous. I think DJ Moore is just waiting to get that quarterback upgrade. If you look at the adjusted yards per pass attempt for DJ Moore throughout his career so far, literally he has averaged bottom 5 quarterback play in the NFL throughout his career. If somehow you get Baker, if somehow you get Jimmy Garoppolo, there's a chance that DJ Moore sees the best quarterback play he's had in his entire career. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Austin says, thoughts on sending Dalton Schultz and a 2023 second for George Kittle into 4th and Olamide Zaccheaus. 4th and Olamide Zaccheaus are literally nothing. It's Dalton Schultz in a second or George Kittle. I think it's a fair deal. If you look at a lot of smart people with how they're breaking down the target share for the Dallas Cowboys, and obviously we know the pace of play, we know the passing rate over expectation for Dallas is always extremely high compared to the rest of the league. A lot of people are on to Schultz this year. I will say my lizard brain just says, oh my gosh, George Kittle, look at what he did from a yards per route run standpoint over the past 3 seasons. Look at the talent, even though Lance may not be the best thing for Kittle. I want to go Kittle, but I think some smart people would probably say Dalton Schultz. Okay. So Paul coming out with our next question says, if you're a retooling team, what would be appropriate value to get back for Aaron Rodgers in a Superflex format? You can't ask for more than a 2023 first and second. Like, realistically, if we were looking at some younger quarterbacks right now, like I think maybe if you're a rebuilding team, you try to go through and you try to take Aaron Rodgers and potentially another asset. Like if you have Aaron Rodgers and then another player that's going to contribute this season, but not much longer. Like if you have Aaron Rodgers and Miles Sanders, or Aaron Rodgers, Elijah Mitchell, Miles Sanders, and Ezekiel Elliot. I'm sorry, Aaron Rodgers and those players. And all of a sudden we can go through and we can package those 2 options and we can get a Trey Lance. We can package up a tier of a quarterback that we don't have to worry about those long-term questions with. At least that's how I'm viewing Lance. I really like that. Now our next question coming out from JS Blaze says 12-team Superflex traded the 103 for the 211 and a projected mid to late first. What are your thoughts? Okay. A couple thoughts here. I'm going to repeat myself for the millionth time. I know everybody's tired of me saying this. Do not be projecting these picks so far out. If you're trading for a 2023 first, don't go, okay, this is an early first. It's an early first. I need to treat it like it's an early first. Because all you're doing is baking in downside. What happens if that team outperforms? What happens if you trade that team Michael Thomas and Miles Sanders for that first round pick, and then all of a sudden Michael Thomas is a wide receiver 1, Miles Sanders is a low end RB1, a high end RB2, and that team that you thought was going to have a high first ends up being a mid to late first, and you just lose the deal because you were trying to project that pick out. I'm just looking at a 2023 first as 2023 first. So you traded the 103 for the 211. The 211 right now, you are lucky if you get Jalen Tolbert. Like that's where the 211 stands currently. And who should we be going with here? 1 second. I think it doesn't matter if we take a tight end here. We already locked into taking 3. So let's go ahead. Let's just take Galladay. I think we're going to go 2, 5, 8, 3. I think we can stop at 5 running backs with this build. So yeah, you traded the 103 for the 211. Lucky to get Jalen Tolbert and a 2023 first. Give me the 103. I mean, man, you had the chance of Drake London. Like, what happens if you ended up just trading Drake London for a 2023 first? Not a fan of that. I love me some 2023 first, but there's just no reason to make that deal. Okay. So now our next question coming out from Vichetti says, hey, would you do Christian McCaffrey for Antonio Gibson and a projected late 2023 first in a non-Superflex league? So would you trade Christian McCaffrey for Antonio Gibson in a first-round pick? If you're a rebuilding team, yes. If you're a rebuilding team, yes. Okay, so now Pasha says 12-team half PPR Superflex start 10, J.K. Dobbins and Marquez Valdez-Scantling for James Conner, Allen Robinson, and Tyler Boyd. I currently have Joe Burrow, T. Higgins, so we're getting the double stack with Tyler Boyd, and you also have Kyler Murray. Okay, I don't really care about pairing up Kyler Murray and James Conner. I don't think that makes a big difference. So I honestly don't mind this because you are getting an undoubted upgrade from Marquez Valdes-Scantling to Allen Robinson. The move from Dobbins to Conner looks very bad if we just try to project out for how J.K. Dobbins will be 2 to 3 years from now compared to Conner, but there's a lot of uncertainty with that. Like, it is in the range of outcomes that J.K. Dobbins isn't a running back with the starting job in 2024. I would say you probably want to ask for a second round pick on top of it, but it's not as far as I think a lot of people would assume. Now, Vader Vape God says, in a Superflex Dynasty 12-team league, would you trade A.J. Dillon for Kareem Hunt and George Pickens? Yes, 100%. Yes, I would go through and make that deal. I love me some Kareem Hunt. I think Kareem Hunt, A.J. Dillon are very comparable players for 2022. Obviously, you prefer A.J. Dillon for the long term, but you're also picking up George Pickens on top of it. Okay, so Alex says, would you move Chase and or Najee Harris to get more depth into old studs like Cooper Kupp and try to win this year? My core would still include Justin Herbert, Jonathan Taylor, Kyle Pitts, Cam Akers, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson, trying to win now. Okay. No, if you have that core, I understand. Maybe you're just antsy. It feels like you're just trading to trade. You have a core of Justin Herbert, top 3 quarterback, Justin Fields, Zach Wilson. You have an upside to find a high-end quarterback too from that pair. Okay? So you're above average at QB. You have a running back 1 overall in Jonathan Taylor, the running back 1 overall. You have Kyle Pitts in the range of outcomes to be the tight end 1 this season. Cam Akers in the range of outcomes to be a running back 1 this season. No, I don't see why we're making that deal. You have Jamar Chase and Najee Harris as well. Like, no, you are a juggernaut team. Why are we going to handicap ourselves by making a trade like that? Okay. So now our next question coming out from Godfather says, saw the video about tiering down in trades and adding picks. Hope this isn't too broad, but who are some wide receivers you'd tier down to from DJ Moore and try to grab a 2023 first? I think that's a very good question. Let me pull up Keep Trade Cut real quick, and I'll try to give you a range of players. And also, we are about to be on the clock here. And I think we're honestly maybe going to stop at 5 running backs with this build. Okay, so wide receivers, I'd try to move off of DJ Moore and pick up an extra 2023 first. Let's go through Darnell Mooney. I'd really like that. Mike Williams, Amari Cooper, Keenan Allen, Brandon Ayuk, Christian Watson, Gabriel Davis, Jahan Dotson if Superflex. I think that's a good tier of players to try to move off of to get that 2023 first on top. Okay, so do we want Hines and stop at running back? Okay, wide receiver, we have Kupp, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Amon-Ra St. Brown, and Kenny Golladay. Let's go ahead and take a tight end here. If we're looking at, you know what, I don't care if Alberto has the higher ADP. I prefer Cole Kmet. We're going to take Cole Kmet here, pick 143. See if we get a tight end making it back to us. And real quick, as we are on the clock, as we were thinking about this, make sure you go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. Hop in our next draft. We do this every single day. It's literally the most fun thing you can do. I am in these drafts every single day, regardless of if it's on the live stream or not, even though we stream these every day, but I'm also in drafts in the morning just because I'm addicted to these by now. If we go Nyheim Hines, are we done at running back? That's the question. I was debating between Nyheim Hines and a running back, but you know what? Let's push that decision down the road and we'll just grab another receiver. We'll go DJ Chark. Okay. Yeah, but go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. I'm in these drafts all the time because it's the most fun thing you can possibly do. You can find the link in the live chat or the description of the video. And when you use promo code FLOCK and make at least a $10 deposit, they'll match your deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. You'll get our 2022 Dynasty rankings. You'll get our 2022 redraft rankings. You will get access to our premium locals content. That's extra live streams. That is our Dynasty rookie draft guide, over 130 pages. Just take advantage of it. You can find the link in the description. We do these all the time. And Caden says, are you going to do a $1,000 redraft like last year? I am probably, maybe. I don't want to shut the door on it completely. Last year, we actually got first. I mean, no, we got second. We got, I think, second in the regular season and second in the championship as well. We were runner-up, but we were first in the amount of hate we got after that draft. Dear God, the amount of hate that we got after that $1,000 live stream. People going, oh my gosh, Mason, you only drafted DeAndre Swift at running back through the first 8 rounds. He's a committee RB. You fool. You're not going to win. You have no shot. Even though we drafted Calvin Ridley. Still, hey, we still did pretty damn good. Okay. So now our next question coming out from Ian says, should I trade Michael Pittman for Garrett Wilson? I'm rebuilding and I have Breece Hall, so I'd have a huge investment into the Jets. I want to say yes in a vacuum. Like if you go through, if you pull up my Dynasty rankings, I'm going to have Garrett Wilson over Michael Pittman. My hesitation is, like I said, on Underdog, there's been $1 million pumped into these drafts. $1 million pumped into this ADP. Like that's how many drafts have gone. And people are putting their money where their mouth is. And Michael Pittman Jr. is going as the wide receiver 14 in these drafts. The man's 24 years old and he's going as the wide receiver 14. If we assume that this ADP is anything close to accurate, I feel like fading Michael Pittman Jr. could be a pretty big mistake. Now, of course, we can't just base everything off of that one simple thing we were looking at, but I would probably look for a better deal for Michael Pittman Jr. if we could. Even though if you held my feet to the fire and I had to pick a guy between Michael Pittman Jr. and Garrett Wilson, I am going to go Garrett Wilson, but nobody is going to agree with me on that one. That's why I'm saying I think you could get more. Caliber coming out with a donation. Thank you so much, my man. Says, the owner of Trey Lance in my league has him on the trade block, and I'm trying to send Nick Chubb, Darren Waller, Jameis Winston, and Marvin Jones for Trey Lance and a 2023 first. Am I giving too much? Okay. I saw the 2023 first. I'm glad to see it's on the other side. So if we just break this down, I think if it's going to be a Superflex format, which I'm assuming it is, because if it's a 1-quarterback league, obviously you're overpaying for him. No, this is a 12-team Superflex. If it's a 12-team Superflex format, I think the gap between the 2023 first and someone like Nick Chubb isn't going to be massive. I think if you're a contender, you'd prefer Chubb. If you're a rebuilder, you could have a conversation about the pick. You probably still try to squeeze out some more value of Nick Chubb, but they're in the same ballpark. I think we can agree with that. And if we're looking at like Trey Lance versus Darren Waller, Jameis Winston, Marvin Jones, like it's Trey Lance by a landslide. So no, I think you are not giving up too much at all. I would definitely prefer Trey Lance in the 2023 first. Dillon coming out of the donation. Thank you, my man. Says, kind of a crazy team at the 109. Want to check it out? Question mark. Yeah, let me go through. I will check that out real quick. Okay, so Dillon drafted at the 109. Austin Eckler in the first. Okay, Eckler usually goes at the 107, 106 in these drafts, so it's going to be good value on Eckler. Deebo Samuel to 204. That's at ADP for Deebo Samuel. Hollywood Brown at the 309. Okay, so I'm assuming you're taking Hollywood here to set yourself up with a potential Kyler Murray stack a little later on. Kittle at the 404 to set up with a Lance stack if you don't get Kyler, which you didn't get Kyler. He went at the 601. You get Drake London in the 6th. Hunter Renfrow in the 7th. I honestly probably would prefer just going with A.J. Dillon here over Renfrow. Trey Lance, really like that pick in the 8th. Love the Aaron Rodgers pick to double dip on those top-end quarterbacks. Boyd, great value. Ronald Jones, great value. I really like the team. The one thing that I would change is I probably would prefer, instead of going with Hunter Renfrow, taking A.J. Dillon here. Okay, so let's pull up this team. Honestly, good thing let's go ahead and let's grab another tight end. We are going to grab our second player for the Rams. We have Cooper Kupp. Now we are going to grab Tyler Higbee. Not that big of a deal, but good thing we grabbed a wide receiver in DJ Chark with that last pick. We did build in some correlation with having Amon-Ra St. Brown on the team as well. And it looks like the wide receivers are not the value here. Okay, so let me grab a question as we wait for our next pick. Blake says, are you using a taxi spot for any round 1 rookie picks? How we use taxi squad spots in my leagues that I run is you can put a player on taxi with no issue. You can move them back and forth. It's not like you put a player on taxi and when you take them off, then you just lose that spot forever. So we are a lot more flexible with our taxi squad spots. So yes, I will, but I'm not necessarily saying that you should, because I do know our rules are a little different and unique. Should we reach on Hurst? No, we'll just go. Yeah, no, we're going to reach on Hurst to get the stack, get our third tight end here. We need a third tight end regardless. It is what it is. Okay, let me find our next question. JN coming out with the donation. Thank you, my dude. Of course, you know I appreciate it. JN, one of the OG members of the flock, also running all those teams with me in the Dynasty flock leagues, says auction draft lineup. We got Lawrence, Javonte, James Robinson, Granson, Chase, Justin Jefferson, Diggs, Debo, Burks, Watkins, Cousins. Need to add pieces, but I like the core. Definitely like the core. The issue is the depth. Sounds like it's pretty tough. But based on, if this is the same auction startup team you sent me a while ago where you just went overboard hammering those tight ends, I think this is definitely an upgrade from where it stood. And now Casey coming out with the donation. Thank you so much, my man. Says Darren Waller for Jameson Williams. Win now team, though enticed by the trade. Other tight ends are Robert Tonyan and Harrison Bryant. Appreciate the content. 10-team Superflex. Start 9. Honestly, in a 10-team Superflex start 9 format, I mean, you are not necessarily going to be incentivized to build around wide receiver depth, in my opinion. I mean, here, if we were just breaking this down, you're going to have 90 total starters across the league. We can assume that 20 of those starters every single week are going to be the quarterback position. That knocks it down to, at most, 70. Then we can assume that you are going to have at least 20 running backs being started every single week. So that means there are 50 wide receivers in the league. Then we break it down, at least one tight end being started in every single week. So at the very most, assuming that a wide receiver is in every single flex spot, that league only starts 40 wide receivers. Wide receiver depth is not going to matter there. Honestly, I like the idea of going and paying up for the elite level tight end, knowing the percentage of the starting lineup that they are going to account for. I think if you were playing in like a 12-team start 11 league, there I would probably be enticed to go Jameson Williams, knowing how much wide receiver depth you need to have to make it through the season. But no, here, especially if you're a contending roster, honestly, probably just prefer Darren Waller. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Nelson says, any value on KJ Hamler? I love me some KJ Hamler. KJ Hamler was the youngest wide receiver in that 2020 draft class coming out of Penn State. He didn't allow Jahan Dotson really to have anything at all in either 2019 or in 2018. And if you're looking at KJ Hamler, I thought we were going to have, I don't want to say a breakout this past season, but I thought he was finally going to be able to show what he could do. Now, the issue is he flashed to an extreme level in the preseason just to go down for the year. I love the talent of KJ Hamler. I do want to bet on him everywhere I can. I have been taking KJ Hamler in a decent amount of drafts. Here, we did not take him. Thomas ended up getting him at pick 171, but that was more so for the construction for us to just grab Hayden Hurst. Now, our next question coming out from Bubby, who says, which two do I cut? Marquez Callaway, Quez Watkins, Paris Campbell, or Jamal Williams? I'm honestly going to definitely hold on to Jamal Williams. Jamal Williams right now is a running back 2 for an NFL team where if DeAndre Swift were to go down, there's a decent chance you could actually start Jamal Williams, and Jamal Williams has a role on a week-to-week basis as well. Definitely not moving on from Jamal Williams. I probably would prefer just moving on from Marquez Callaway and Quez Watkins. With Paris Campbell, the man may never be able to stay healthy. This was a wide receiver that came out in that 2019 draft class out of Ohio State. Looked like a decent prospect. Got drafted in the second round by the Indianapolis Colts. This will be the last year of his rookie contract. Unless I'm mistaken, I think it's the last year of his rookie deal. So it's now or never for him, and he hasn't shown the ability to stay healthy. I still probably would prefer him, though. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Naveen says, hey, Mason, are we going to go A.J. Dillon or Elijah Moore? Full PPR Dynasty format. I think you probably need to go Elijah Moore. I honestly think it's up to you. I think it is up to you. Okay, so Dylan says, do you think with more cases being added, will Watson be suspended longer? I wish I could weigh in on this, but at the end of the day, I'm not a lawyer. At the end of the day, I'm not a lawyer. If I said anything, I'd just be talking out of my ass. And Alex says, 12-team Superflex, half PPR, Sanders, James Robinson, and Calvin Ridley for J.K. Dobbins and Tyler Boyd. The gap between Miles Sanders and Dobbins, it won't be massive for me. I probably still prefer Dobbins and Boyd. Like, I am going to be trading for Calvin Ridley everywhere I can. Not right now, though, because the issue with Calvin Ridley is there's nothing that can happen for him to increase his trade value. Like, nothing at all. We're just going to have to kind of sit on our hands and probably start sending out offers halfway through the season. Okay. Thomas goes Julio Jones. Thank God. So we get Brian Robinson coming in as our 5th running back. Tyler says, yo, Mason, I'm never able to make it out to your live streams because I go to bed early. I'm pumped to make it to this one. What do you think of Jonathan Taylor for Cooper Kupp, Austin Eckler, and a 2023 first and a 10-team non-Superflex 3 wide receiver starters? I think it does come down to if you're a contender or rebuilder. If you're actually, I probably prefer Kupp, Eckler in the first regardless. I'll tell you, I definitely prefer Kupp, Eckler in the first, almost regardless. Okay. Looks like this is going to be a 7 wide receiver team, which is gross, which is horrible. I don't want to talk about it. Let me queue up a bunch of wide receivers and we're going to hop in another draft. We're going to get a ton of these drafts going. I mean, we've been averaging about 3 or 4 drafts a night. So like I said, if you have not signed up for Underdog, go to the link in the description. Go sign up for Underdog Fantasy ASAP so you can start getting these drafts with us. Okay, I'm just queuing up some wide receivers and then we will kick off our next draft. And then we'll, of course, I'm going to continue to answer questions as well. But it's a lot more fun, I think, for everybody watching, as well as a ton of fun for me to have these drafts going on in the background. I don't know if y'all know this, but on our main fantasy football channel, I spend like 4 hours every single night just answering questions. So we're going to be doing that again this upcoming season. So if I'm going to be answering questions right now and we can draft at the same time, you better believe I'm going to be drafting at the same time to have some more fun. Okay, so let's hop into this puppy draft. And it looks like there are no spots available. Looks like this is a filled waiting for us. Okay, so, yeah, I don't think Derek's in this draft. Giant Blue's in this draft. But outside of that, I don't think we have anybody else in here from the flock. Okay, so let's go find our next question. Deezonator says, here's a trade I just did. David Montgomery, Josh Jacobs, DK Metcalf, TJ Hawkinson, and 2 2023 first for Jonathan Taylor and Jamar Chase. Really interesting, because if we just break this down, Montgomery's probably worth the first. Jacobs is probably worth the first. Metcalf's probably worth the first. Hawkinson maybe isn't, but I would say if you split Hawkinson in half and then add in Montgomery and Jacobs, there you wouldn't have any argument about them being worth the first. So you essentially traded 5 first-round picks for Jonathan Taylor and Jamar Chase. A very interesting deal. I would love to look at that deal 12 months from now. 12 months from now, I'd love to revisit that. Posca says, I own the 114 and the 201 in a 1 quarterback 14 team league in this year's draft. I'm planning on taking David Bell and Wan'Dale Robinson. I feel like I'm overreaching for Robinson. Let me know. Honestly, no. If you look at where I have Wan'Dale Robinson, I think I have him ranked around the 17th player overall in a Superflex format. So in a 1 quarterback league, he is going to slide up there. I mean, this is a player that was a dominant producer. A dominant producer his final season at Kentucky. Like, obviously, at the beginning part of his career, yes, this is a player that was used, I don't want to say as a gadget type option, but he definitely was hard to project going into the NFL as a full-time wide receiver. Because obviously you had the rushing attempts, and very rarely are you seeing a player be used that way in college, and it actually translates to a role in the NFL. But at Kentucky, the man dominated. He had almost 50% of the receiving production in that offense on a per game basis. At 20 years old in the SEC. Gets drafted in the 2nd round by this new regime. Like, we don't know if they love Kadarius Toney. We don't know if they love Kenny Golladay. They're not the one who gave Kenny Golladay that contract. So I like it. I'm completely fine with it. Okay, so now our next question coming up from Ross is a Breece Hall for Antonio Gibson and a 2023 first round pick. Superflex, I think you probably take the package 1 quarterback, you go Breece Hall. Up to you if I'm going to be honest. Now our next question coming out from Kaysen, have the 4th pick in our rookie draft, who should I target? Right now, my rookie rankings are going to have Breece Hall 1, Drake London 2, Treylon Burks 3, Garrett Wilson 4. I'm honestly not even going to go for Kenneth Walker there. Dillon says, can't believe Michael Pittman's going before these other names. Shake my head. I'm there with you, man. I just recorded a video that should come out like a week from now on the Dynasty channel. Yes, I'm having to record videos that far in advance because I'm preparing to move across the country. But honestly, just comparing keep trade cut to Underdog and going, okay, this ADP on Underdog has Michael Pittman Jr. as the 14th wide receiver off the board. He's 24 years old. On keep trade cut, he should technically be higher than that if we're just thinking that these Underdog rankings are accurate and we try to identify buy low / sell high players by looking at the arbitrage between the two lists. And I agree with you. I think the ADP overall on Michael Pittman Jr. is crazy, but it probably means I need to stop hating on him so much in Dynasty because his Dynasty price is lower. Okay, so now our next question coming out from B Cool says, who would you take at the 103 rookie, assuming Hall and London would go in the first 2 picks? It's a start 3 wide receiver and 2 flex league, leaning Jameson Williams. Oh, for the love of God, don't take Jameson Williams. Why would we do that? Why? Maybe Jameson Williams ends up being a fine option if we are talking about his NFL value and how he can stretch NFL defenses. But if we are going to be looking at Jameson Williams in terms of his ability to command volume, I would never consider Jameson Williams over Treylon Burks. I would never consider that. Maybe he's a better NFL wide receiver, like I said, with how he can affect his overall offensive efficiency for the other targets in that offense and his quarterback play overall. But for him to draw that volume himself, no, we're not doing that. We're not doing that. Okay, so now Justin the King coming out with our next question says, who is a better player to sell today, Michael Thomas or Allen Robinson? I personally would prefer to sell Allen Robinson. I think you're going to get more for Allen Robinson. I think if you're looking at Allen Robinson and his yards per route run, the man was smoked by Darnell Mooney last year. It wasn't even a competition. Darnell Mooney was by far and away the best wide receiver in Chicago. Now, I will say one thing that makes me hesitant and just completely writing off Allen Robinson this upcoming season, the Rams paid the man $30 million guaranteed. Like Sean McVay paying you $30 million guaranteed does make me hesitate because obviously Sean McVay knows more about the game of football and his pinky than I will ever know in my entire life. But still, I'm looking at that yards per route run. I'm looking at the fact that Cooper Kupp will always demand at least 25% of this team's target share. So, yeah, I would personally rather hold on to Michael Thomas when I think he's actually going to be the cheaper dynasty asset. Okay, so Slurpee says, Dynasty startup draft, 12-team Superflex, a 4th pick, took Burrow, and then traded my 2nd and 3rd for the 107 to get Chase. Worth it or an overpay? Oh, man. Oh, God. I wouldn't have taken Burrow at the 104, and I definitely wouldn't have traded my 2nd and 3rd round pick to get the 107. I obviously like the idea of stacking Burrow and Chase together, but like that's a trade that you used to see a ton in Dynasty Fantasy Football back in like 2015, 2016, 2014 as well. 2014 was even more extreme, but it was standard to see half the league trade their 2nd and 3rd round picks for the other half of the league's 1st round selection. Since then, people have gotten smarter. Since then, you never really see that deal happening. Now we saw it. We saw someone, in my opinion, do it on the wrong side of it. I'm wishing you the best of luck. I like the idea that you get the stack, but to go through and trade your 2nd and 3rd round startup picks for a 1st, I personally can't get behind it. Okay, so now Chimichanga coming out says a 12-team Superflex PPR, Dak and Penny or Swift and Davis Mills on a contending roster. Quarterback is Burrow, Lawrence, Winston. Running backs are Javonte Williams, Travis Etienne, Kenneth Gainwell, Devin Singletary. I'm going to hold on to Dak Prescott and Rashad Penny. I'm not a massive fan of Davis Mills. The thing with Davis Mills is he doesn't have the long-term job security, and very similar to Mac Jones, where I think Mac Jones actually does have a better job, a more secure job overall. You never even know if you're going to be able to start the man. He has no rushing upside at all. Legitimately, no rushing upside at all. I'm probably just going to go ahead and I'm probably just going to be holding on to Dak Prescott. Okay, Caden says Hopkins in a 3rd for Hunter Renfrow and Leonard Fournette. I'd probably take Leonard Fournette and Hunter Renfrow at this point. Simran says a Dynasty 10-team Superflex PPR tight end premium AJ Brown for Stephon Diggs. I'm going to prefer AJ Brown. Now, if you're a contending roster, I would understand why you would want to go out of your way, why you would want to bring in Stephon Diggs. Obviously, Stephon Diggs in a significantly better situation overall. You were also looking at AJ Brown as a player where last week he said Devontae Smith was the wide receiver 1 of the team. Now, of course, that's not true, but I do want to bring up the fact that AJ Brown is now going to see more target competition this upcoming season than he has ever had in Tennessee. Last year he was going up against Nick Westbrook-Ikhine as the second option in this offense. Now he will be going up against Devontae Smith. Now he will be going up against Dallas Goedert, which is pretty tough. Now, Niz coming out says, traded David Montgomery and Albert O for Dalton Schultz in a 2023 first-round pick. Who won? Dalton Schultz, a 2023 first-round pick. A great job. I mean, if we're looking at it, David Montgomery is worth the first. I think some people would actually argue that David Montgomery isn't. I'll just throw a dog a bone, say David Montgomery equal the first-round pick. You easily prefer Dalton Schultz over Albert O. I mean, yes, Albert O is highly athletic. Yes, a lot of people want to get excited about Albert O. But at the end of the day, Dalton Schultz just put up like a top 5 finish, stepping into the prime of his career. You have no Cedric Wilson. You have no Amari Cooper there as well. There should be a ton of volume to go around. Okay, so here's my thought process as we make this pick. We are 100% going to take Jalen Waddle here as one of my most drafted wide receivers on Underdog. Now, yes, I was saying that he was a severely overvalued player when we were looking at his dynasty value a ways back because he was going in the second round of startups, even after the Tyreek Hill trade, which was ridiculous. And here between DJ Moore and Hollywood Brown, how I've been breaking this tiebreaker is I've been looking at DJ Moore on teams where I'm taking Patrick Mahomes at the turn or where I have a clear stack to set up. But if I don't have that stack, because it's unlikely we get Lamar Jackson making it back to us at the 5-6 turn, we are going to go ahead and take Hollywood Brown because there Kyler Murray's available almost every single time. Okay, so we have another donation question coming out. It looks like I just lost that one, but let me find that. And as I find this question, please, if you want to get into a draft with us, make sure you go down there, drop a like on the live stream, and then go to the description, go to the live chat, and go sign up for Underdog Fantasy. When you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you use promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Not only will they match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100, but you'll get our 2022 Dynasty rankings. You'll get our Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide. You will also get access to our locals community. You'll get our 2022. You'll get so much. You'll support this channel, and most importantly, you'll be able to have a ton of fun in these drafts with us every single day. Okay, so I tried to find Costco's donation question. It says message retracted though. I'm very sorry. I'm very sorry. I don't know why it did that. Maybe you sent something and just cussed me out and it automatically did that. And our next question coming up from Jared says, what killer workout do I have to do to look like a stud like you, Mason? Oh man, what you have to do is you have to buy a desk, a microphone, and sit at your desk for about 80 hours a week, researching, writing, recording, and streaming, and dedicate your entire life to fantasy football. Don't have a single friend. Have your girlfriend on the brink of breaking up with you every single day because all you do is live stream and all you do is talk about fantasy football on YouTube. Then you can start balding like me and you can start living this stressful life. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Andrew says, love the analysis and research you do for the team. How do you feel about Burrow if you don't have the stack of T. Higgins or Jamar Chase? Should I move Burrow for a Kyler Murray or Lamar Jackson plus a pick? I honestly really like the idea of moving Joe Burrow for Kyler Murray. I think if you want to come out here and make the argument that Joe Burrow is a better quarterback than Kyler Murray, fine. You do you. I mean, I am not going to argue against you on that point. If we look at what Joe Burrow did this past season with no offensive line and the fact that now he is actually finally getting an offensive line, I'm there with you. I think you can make the argument Burrow is a much more talented quarterback than Kyler Murray. But Kyler Murray is a younger quarterback. Kyler Murray has more rushing upside. We've seen Kyler Murray post during stretches a quarterback 1 overall finish. It's in his range of outcomes. Because Joe Burrow doesn't have access to that same rushing upside, if we don't have Chase, if we don't have Higgins, I love the idea of taking Joe Burrow and moving him for Kyler Murray plus a pick. Okay. Dillon says, how many more puppy drafts until you max out your entries? I was saying this, I believe, on the other live stream. I don't think I'm going to be able to max out the puppy. Trust me, it sucks. I really want to, but if I'm looking at this, I think I have. So if y'all don't know, puppy draft, this is like the $5 draft we're doing on Underdog. It has $75,000 to first place. Like, I don't know what the second place prize is, but it's like $75,000 to first, and then it goes all the way down. But if you get first place in your 12-team league, you get paid. Second place, 12-team league, you get paid. I know everybody knows this, but a small percentage of every league pot is set aside for the tournament at the very end. Let me see how many we've completed. Okay, I've completed. This is exactly my 75th puppy. Exactly my 75th puppy. So I need 75 more, but it's already halfway full. It's already over halfway full, so I don't know if I'm going to get there. Vincent says 12-team Superflex tight end premium format. Quarterbacks get half a point per passing or rushing first down. Okay, so dear God. So quarterbacks get half a point per first down. It doesn't matter what the first down is, assuming it's done by the quarterback. My first pick is the 207. We have to take a quarterback, right? Yes, I think you do, my man. I know you said you sent us the list of your picks. Let me see if this is in the chat or if you send it to me on like locals or if you send it to me on Discord or something. Let me know in the chat where you sent those picks. But yeah, if you're at the 207, you are going to have to grab a quarterback. Now, the issue is the quarterbacks that are going to be available. What I would do if I were you, I would really hope that you have Watson making it. I would really hope that your league mates are so scared of Watson that they end up letting him fall to the 207. If that doesn't happen, I'm looking at my guy, Trey Lance. Y'all know, I mean, I can talk about Trey Lance until my tongue falls out of my mouth. I don't even know the saying that's appropriate for how much I can talk about Trey Lance and my true love for the man in fantasy football, given his rushing upside, especially if you were getting half a point per rushing first down from your quarterback. Love to go get Lance. Okay, you said you sent that team on Discord. Let me pull up Discord. I will say I do not check Discord. I very rarely check Discord now that we have the locals and I just read all the posts on that page. But let me pull up Discord to see what picks you have. Okay, we have a ton of messages I need to look at here. Okay, so you have the 207, the 401, the 404, 604, 6. Yeah, so if you aren't going to have another pick to the 401, there, based on how your league mates react overall, you probably don't even have Lawrence. You probably don't even have Justin Fields. You probably don't even have Aaron Rodgers available to you. So I'd say 207, first plan, Deshaun Watson, if somehow he falls. Second plan, Trey Lance. If that doesn't work out for you, then I think we pivot over and we go with someone like Russell Wilson. Derek takes Lamar Jackson, of course, not letting us get Lamar. That's why we set ourselves up with the backup plan. That's why we set ourselves up with the plan to grab Kyler Murray with Hollywood Brown. Not a unique start at all. Not that exciting. It is what it is. And we're going to also take one of my most drafted players. I guess not. He goes with his fourth running back. It is what it is. So what? We're going to go wide receiver. Let's go Kyler Murray. And I really don't like drafting Juju this year. Like, not where he's going. F it. Let's grab two QBs. We'll go Jalen Hurts. I just think it's a dead zone overall. I mean, if we're looking at running backs, Antonio Gibson, if we're looking at wide receiver, Juju Smith-Schuster, I don't think that's going to be too different of what we have at the 7-8 turn, whereas the quarterback drop-off will be there. A couple more donation questions coming. Dear God, we're getting a crap ton of donations. Oscar says, 10-team Dynasty PPR starting lineup is Dak Prescott, Javonte Williams, Elijah Mitchell, Michael Pittman, DJ Moore, Deontay Johnson, Kyle Pitts, Chris Godwin. I have the 101 and the 102 and the 109. Should I stack running backs or go wide receiver? In a 10-team format, I am more understanding for the thought process of wanting to just go ahead and, instead of grabbing Drake London at the 102, of grabbing Kenneth Walker. It's going to depend on your starting lineup requirements. But in a 10-team league, that wide receiver depth just isn't going to matter unless you have to start three of them and you have 3 or 4 flex spots. If you have to start 3 wide receivers and you have 3 or more flex spots, I'm still just going to go ahead and grab Drake London. But if it's like a 10-team shallow format where you only start 9 players, there I'm fine with you going Kenneth Walker, especially when you have the 109 and you can end up getting someone like Chris Olave. Now, Kasiako, I mean, I can't pronounce it, my man. I am sorry. I am truly one of the dumbest people on the planet. I am so sorry. I'm not going to embarrass myself again. But it says DK Metcalf for David Montgomery, Cam Akers, or Kenneth Walker. Need another running back. Other starting wide receivers are A.J. Brown and Jalen Waddle, or should I look to hold in a super flex half PPR format? Okay, so I will say that I think I was unfairly down on DK Metcalf for quite a while. Y'all know I've been screaming all offseason, DK Metcalf, one of the most overvalued players in fantasy football. We were looking at the possibility that Russell Wilson got moved. Then Russell Wilson actually got moved. I thought people didn't react enough. We were looking at DK Metcalf's points per game. I just wrote his chapter in our draft guide. And I will admit, I think maybe I was a little too harsh on DK Metcalf, because this is a wide receiver that at the end of the day, he has managed to increase his target share every single season in Seattle. Like, he is a larger portion of this offense now than he has ever been. He had 26% of his team's targets on a per game basis this past year. Doesn't matter who the quarterback is. That stat is going to just look at him compared to the other options in that offense in the same environment. I probably would need more to move Metcalf. I love trading DK Metcalf for T. Higgins at the beginning of the offseason. Remember when you could trade DK Metcalf for T. Higgins. Remember the glory days. But I don't know if I'm ready to ship DK Metcalf off for David Montgomery. Justin says, Kyler Murray for Justin Fields and a third. Oh, please, for the love of God, do not make that deal. Please keep on to Kyler Murray. Okay, let me scroll back up to the top of the chat and see if I can find where we left off. Justin says, I had a trade the other day in my league. Defending champ sold Cole Kmet for Rondale Moore. What are your thoughts? The champ has Mark Andrews and Kyle Pitts, so Kmet wasn't going to see the starting lineup ever. I personally like Kmet. Now, obviously, I don't like Chicago. Y'all know I've talked, I don't know how much crap about Mr. Justin Fields, but Cole Kmet is the second option in this offense. He's going up against Velus Jones, Byron Pringle for the second leading target. He had a decent target share last year as well. In year 2, now he's going into year 3. He's younger than Pat Freiermuth. Now, the reason Cole Kmet had absolutely no production, and you could never start Cole Kmet in fantasy last year, is he had 0 touchdowns, a total of 0 touchdowns. That is not going to stay the same. You are going to get some positive touchdown regression coming in from Cole Kmet. You are going to have more touchdowns scored overall. Probably not that many, because I doubt Justin Fields is able to consistently take this team to the red zone, but still, nonetheless, I do like the idea of going and getting Cole Kmet. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Bryson says, Darren Waller for Noah Fant, Damian Harrison, Davis Mills for a contending team. I honestly probably prefer Darren Waller. I know we're disrespecting Davis Mills. The thing is, I don't think he has the job security, and even if he has the job, are you ever starting Davis Mills this season? A single week? Probably not. And you are going to be starting Darren Waller every single week. I don't care about the age with Darren Waller compared to Davis Mills. So I think the probability that you start Darren Waller 8 or more games next year versus the probability you start Davis Mills 8 or more games next year, I probably would bet on Darren Waller in 2023 as well. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Switchback says, is CeeDee Lamb really the incredible wide receiver one that many websites are propping him up to be? He's young, and now he's the main target in Dallas, but he's not put up wide receiver one-esque numbers so far. Yeah, actually, we just got done talking about CeeDee Lamb in our video today on the main channel. CeeDee Lamb on Underdog Fantasy is being drafted as the wide receiver 6. Obviously, in Dynasty, you're probably going to have to pay up as well, considering the age that you're going to be looking at with Lamb. If I pull up the draft guide, the chapter that we wrote, I'm just doing this because in this draft guide, there's so much information. Like, it's so much easier for me to make videos now whenever I don't have to do the research every single time I'm going to talk about a player. I just have it all here. Yeah, so CeeDee Lamb, if you actually look at his yards per route run last year, he averaged 2.2 yards per route run. That's an elite mark for a wide receiver, regardless of the point of his career he's actually at. Ooh, running backs are still not the value. I'm not going to force it. We're trying something new here. We're trying to build unique teams, trying to have access to elite level upside. We're going to go 6 RBs. We are going to go with a 6 running back build. That looks very gross. I don't want to talk about it. But yeah, CeeDee Lamb, if you're looking at his target share as well, he averaged over 20% of this team's targets last season. That was with Amari Cooper. That was with Cedric Wilson on this team. And both of them leaving are opening up 165 targets in Dallas. The touchdown rate wasn't there. He had only 5% of his targets turning to touchdowns, but that is something we should expect to change going forward. So I'm fine going through and betting on CeeDee Lamb this upcoming season. I know you are having to pay up as if he's already an elite level wide receiver and he's never put up elite level wide receiver production. Hell, sometimes you have to go and pay for a stud when everybody knows that he's a stud. Okay, so Ryan says, Kenny Golladay going to bounce back for sure. The new coaching staff is going to find a way to get him involved. I'm fine betting on the bounce back with Kenny Golladay because if you go through and if you look at Mike Glennon last season, let me pull up how bad the Giants actually were outside of those Daniel Jones games. I mean, people know that Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm were bad. I don't think they know the extent to which they were. So you had, oh my God, 4 games started from Mike Glennon. 4 games started from Mike Glennon. Now, I don't know how familiar y'all are with adjusted yards per pass attempt, so I'm going to pull up the leaders in the statistic last year just to give you a reference. And I want you to guess. What the adjusted yards per pass attempt were for Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm. So let's go. The worst starting quarterback in the NFL in adjusted yards per pass attempt was Sam Darnold at 5.2. That was the absolute worst. Okay. Someone like Teddy Bridgewater had 7.3 adjusted yards per pass attempt. Teddy Bridgewater, 7.3 adjusted yards per pass attempt. Sam Darnold, 5.2. Can y'all guess in the chat right now what the adjusted yards per pass attempt mark was for Mr. Mike Glennon, who started 4 games, who attempted 167 pass attempts? I'll just run through these stats real quick. 167 pass attempts for Mike Glennon, 790 passing yards, 4 touchdowns, and 10 interceptions. He had 2.5 adjusted yards per pass. I've never seen something so bad until we get the opportunity to scroll down just a little bit and to look at Mr. Jake Fromm, who got to start 2 games. He had 60 pass attempts for 210 passing yards, 1 touchdown, 3 interceptions, for a whopping 1.6 adjusted yards per pass attempt. If you said, Mason, you know what? Yeah, I know you only weigh 160 pounds. I know you are a small little French fry, but we are going to make you a starting NFL running back. And you got to average 1.6 yards per attempt. Can you average 1.6 yards per carry? I may be able to do it. Just maybe. Like, obviously, I'm just going through a little hole and then diving and hoping that I don't get hit. The second I get hit, I'm done for the game. But Jake Fromm was averaging 1.6 adjusted yards per pass attempt. Teddy Bridgewater was at 7.2. So if you want to bet on those New York Giants players bouncing back this upcoming season with the new coaching staff and Daniel Jones instead of the combination of Mike Glennon and Jake Fromm, I can't blame you. I can't blame you if you want to go through and bet on that. Okay, so we have a couple donations coming out. Thank you, guys. We have Alex says, I have Watson, Ryan Tannehill, Jordan Love, Jared Goff, Teddy Bridgewater to 10-team Superflex PPR. Would you trade Ryan Tannehill in a second and Adam Thielen for Baker Mayfield and Derek Carr? Okay, so I will say in a 10-team Superflex format, you're going to find that these quarterbacks that don't have access to really any type of ceiling, perfect example is Baker Mayfield. In a 10-team Superflex format, he has no value. Like, of course, if you're playing in a 12-team league, yes, you can get excited about him. In a 10-team format, it's going to be significantly more difficult because everybody has enough starters to go around. Everybody has 3 starters in this format. So we're essentially just paying up to get Derek Carr. I honestly probably want to make this deal. Like, if we're looking at this, you are paying a decent price. And I don't know if we're looking at the actual points per game, what the gap is going to be here. If we could hold on to the second, I would really like it. Actually, no, you're fine. You're fine making the trade because I need to look at Ryan Tannehill through the same lens that we're almost evaluating Baker Mayfield with. And that what is the real probability that you ever actually go out there and get to start Ryan Tannehill on a weekly basis for a contending team? A rebuilder could start him, but you don't care about him if you're a rebuilding roster. So yeah, with Devontae Adams coming over, I'm fine going out there and trading for Derek Carr. I would rather hold on to Adam Thielen, like take out Adam Thielen and Baker Mayfield in the deal. But if this was the best offer, yes. Okay. So now our next question coming out from King Donk, who says, I have the 102 and the 103. I am taking London at the 102, thinking of trading the 103 for the 106 and Rashad Bateman. Should I trade or take Treylon Burks? 100% go trade for the 106 and Rashad Bateman. Great deal, my man. Of course, thank you for supporting the channel. But if you're looking at that 106, you can bring in someone like Chris Olave, who I would personally take there. And if we're betting on Chris Olave and Rashad Bateman versus Treylon Burks, if you go back and you look at Rashad Bateman as a prospect, Rashad Bateman checked every single box that you were looking for. You have Hollywood Brown taking 25% of this team's target share over to Arizona. Like, yeah, I'm 100% fine making that deal. Okay, so let's go through and find our next question. And I'm just going to scroll back for a while for the people that have been in the chat for a long time. Fantasy Football Clown Show coming out says, I would love to as I have money in the account, but I live in a bad state. I'm sorry, my man. I know it's annoying that with Underdog and DFS in general. I don't want to say Underdog is exactly DFS, but they do have to follow a lot of the same laws. To my understanding, I could be wrong. Trust me. I'm probably wrong, and I'm probably talking out of my ass. But if you look at the overlap, it is pretty much the same. And I heard it on a podcast. So if you hear it on a podcast, you know it's true. But let me read the states that you can't do Underdog Fantasy in real quick, just in case you're interested. Ineligible states. Because obviously this isn't like Bovada or some like unregulated BS. No, this is legit. This is all regulated, or it wouldn't be on this channel. Okay, so Underdog Fantasy is legal in all states except for Connecticut, Hawaii, Idaho, Nevada, Louisiana, Montana, Washington, Delaware, Iowa, Michigan. It is legal in Canada, but not Ontario. And it used to be in Ontario, but they just went through and updated some stuff. Okay, so now let's go find our next question. Our next one's coming up from Clint says, just please do not invest into the Jets players. I am trying to avoid those Jets wide receivers where we can. Cole says, hey, Mason, what are your thoughts? In a 12-team Superflex PPR format, no tight end premium, we get Leonard Fournette, TJ Hawkinson, and T. Higgins, and we give A.J. Dillon, Treylon Burks, and DK Metcalf. Okay, I'd prefer Higgins over Metcalf. Prefer Burks over Hawkinson. I prefer Dillon over Fournette. I think if you're a rebuilding roster, you go Dillon, Burks, Metcalf. If you're a contender, you go Fournette, Higgins, Hawkinson. Okay, our next question coming out from Paul says, 12-team Superflex tight end premium format, start 12 and a kicker. We get 0.1 points per yard and +1 for over a 50-yard kick. I traded Swift and DK Metcalf for Aaron Jones, Calvin Ridley, a 2023 first and a 2024 second. Did I make a mistake? Yes, I think you did, my man. I mean, here, I think most people would argue that they would prefer DeAndre Swift over Aaron Jones, Calvin Ridley, and prefer DK Metcalf over the 2023 first. I think maybe it ends up looking fine. Trust me, I love me some Calvin Ridley. The issue is I just don't see how his value changes at all until next offseason. Okay, so what the heck? Do people just hate? Did some Chase Claypool news just break? The man has an ADP of 105 and fell to pick 131. I thought we were about to get him. Okay, so we're going to go Ronald Jones. We are dying for running backs here. Do we go Ronald Jones, Michael Carter? Yeah, I think we have to. Michael Carter continuing to be one of my most drafted running backs. Oh, brutal. Just absolutely brutal. Okay. So let's go through, find our next question. Bobby says, Mason, everything of putting a top 300 overall Superflex and non-Superflex in your Dynasty rankings, in addition to the breakdown you have as of now. No, the issue is, if y'all know, if you sign up for Underdog Fantasy and you get my Dynasty rankings, I will give you a warning. You are not going to be getting our overall top 300 rankings. And the reason for this is very similar to how y'all see how I think through these Dynasty trades. If you have played in a decent mount up dynasty leagues with different league formats, you understand the wild differences that you should have in positional value in a 10-team Superflex league that starts 9 versus a 12-team Superflex league that starts 11. Like how I value running back versus wide receiver, or tight end versus receiver, or quarterback versus running back in those formats is going to be wildly different. That the reason I don't put out those top 300 dynasty rankings overall is legitimately it would help. I mean, it would hurt more than it would help. If people just went through and they just followed those rankings and didn't think about their actual league format and didn't optimize their overall roster construction for the league they were playing in, and they just drafted off the rankings, it's not going to help. So that's why I break down our rankings by position, and more importantly, into tiers as well. I think having positional tiers is what is actually going to help, where those overall rankings it really won't. That's why we cover a lot of it in our Dynasty research book, where we talk about how to adjust for those different formats. Matthew says, in a half PPR, I have Elijah Mitchell, Cam Akers, and Harris, and I want to upgrade. I have Breece Hall and DeAndre Swift. What should I be looking to get? That's so general, my man. That's the most general question I've ever heard. Mark says, Jameson Williams for a mid to late 2023 in Superflex. I'm going to prefer a 2023 first in Superflex over Jameson Williams quite easily as well. I mean, with Jameson Williams, also, I feel like it's difficult for him to increase his dynasty trade value that much, knowing that he's going to miss the beginning part of the season as well. He's going to be stuck with Jared Goff. Yeah, his situation in 2023 will be better than where it is now because DJ Chark is only signed to a 1-year deal. But no, I'm going to prefer the 2023 first. I think you'll have so much flexibility with that side. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Carl says, 12 teams, 2021 startup, doing an immediate rebuild, 12-team, start 10, Superflex. I kept a young core. Okay, we don't have a question with that. Just telling us what's happening. Jason says, would you trade Mitchell and Trey Sermon for a 2023 first? Yeah, Trey Sermon's literally nothing. He's a complete throw. And now that they draft Tyrion Davis-Price in the 3rd round, like, Trey Sermon legitimately has no value at all. I thought that he could have been an interesting late pickup. It's just the very end of your roster, but now, no, I have no interest. Okay, so Nick says, say I want to unload Devontae Adams for some depth. What would you do? I would trade Devontae Adams for another wide receiver and try to pick up a 2023 first-round pick. Ryan says, should I trade Dallas Goedert for a 2023 first-round pick? Yes, you should do that yesterday. Justin says, 12-team PPR dynasty, a quarterback in a 6-point passing touchdown format. We have Trey Lance, Sam Darnold, Drew Lock. I have the 105 and the 110, planning on London, and then Matt Corral to secure the Panthers quarterbacks. Next pick I got is the 210. Do you agree? No, I do not agree. I think going through and taking Matt Corral at the 110 is a reach. I'm not going to be dramatically altering our quarterback evaluation in a 6-point passing touchdown format compared to a 4-point passing touchdown league. The actual adjustment that I'd be making is, instead of all of a sudden raising the value of the quarterbacks, I instead would be prioritizing pocket passing options instead of those rushing guys. Like in a 4-point passing touchdown league, someone like Jalen Hurts is going to give you a ridiculous amount of production, even if he doesn't have the passing volume. And it's going to be very hard for a Tom Brady, for Matthew Stafford to catch up on him unless they are top 3 in the NFL in passing yards and passing touchdowns. That's the only way that they could catch up on one of those premium rushing quarterbacks like Jalen Hurts or Trey Lance. Whereas here, you don't need to be just bumping up the value of someone like Corral. Like, what happens if you take Matt Corral at the 110, you go, okay, yeah, you know what? I'm going to pass on Sky Moore. I'm going to pass on Christian Watson. I'm going to take Matt Corral here. Oh, crap. Oh, God dang. They traded for Baker Mayfield. Oh, they traded for Jimmy Garoppolo. Then you have no starting quarterbacks out of it. Matt Corral, even if he were to start this upcoming season, and even if he were to do good, like Davis Mills outperformed Justin Fields. He played better than Zach Wilson. He played better than Trevor Lawrence last year. Can you trade Davis Mills for a 2023 first-round pick right now? No, because he didn't have the team investment. So even if Matt Corral comes out here and he plays better than Kenny Pickett, are you going to be able to trade him for a first-round pick next year? No, you can't. So why are we going to take him in the first this year? Please don't do that. Okay. Ingross says, 10-team Superflex. I traded Zach Wilson for a 2023 first. I really like it. In a 10-team Superflex format, Quarterback's going to be a lot easier to come by. And Zach Wilson, if you look historically with what he did his rookie season, it's very hard to come back from something like that. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Jake says, Jacoby Myers or Russell Gage in Dynasty? I'm going to prefer Russell Gage. I actually tweeted something out today that if you look at the contract Russell Gage got, oh dear God, they paid the man $30 million. Russell Gage got paid $30 million this offseason compared to Juju Smith-Schuster at $2.5 million. Absolutely ridiculous. Okay. So let's find our next question. And this one coming out from Gene says, what will you sell Najee Harris for? Very, very general. Like, I don't know your format. I don't know your team. I don't know your direction. I'm not going to be able to answer something like that, my man. And Nick says, I picked 10 in a 12-team Superflex tight end premium league next week. What is your favorite strategy at that spot? I think if you actually end up getting two of those top-level quarterbacks making it to you, like if we can end up going to Deshaun Watson at 10, I'm going to be smashing that pick in there. And then let me just pull up Keep Trade Cut to get an idea of the other players that you could be looking at. If it's going to be a tight end premium format, it'd be completely fine taking Kyle Pitts there as well. But if you wanted to go, say, a Deshaun Watson in the first, where you should easily be able to do that right now on Keep Trade Cut, Deshaun Watson is the 20th play overall, which I just don't agree with at all. And then if we get, say, you know what you could do if you want to go back-to-back quarterback, take Dak Prescott at 10 and then pair him up with Deshaun Watson at the beginning of the second. Even though I would rank Deshaun Watson higher, hell, I mean, we kind of have to look at the probabilities of those players making it back to you with your next pick. Okay. Henry says, I traded Jamal Williams for Calvin Ridley last month. Dear God, that is beautiful. That is beautiful. Aroda says, Mason, what is the promo code again? Okay, so thank you for asking, my man. I know you probably have never heard of this. I know everybody in this live stream is probably your first time hearing about this, but let me fill you in. I was down at the local pub yesterday and I heard a rumor in the grapevine, coming down the grapevine. Apparently, this thing called Underdog Fantasy that we are on right now, apparently you can hop into real money fantasy football drafts here any time of the day, whenever you want. I heard they're a ton of fun as well. I've been testing them out. They do seem like they're pretty fun. I'm a newbie on this, so I don't know too much about it. But what I heard that was really weird is apparently if you sign up and use what's called a promo code with a link in the description of this video and you use, it's called Flock or something like F-L-O-C-K-E. I don't know how you spell it. Maybe it's like right there or something. But if you use that code, I heard in the rumorville that you'll actually get our 2022 Dynasty rankings. I heard they'll match your deposit dollar for dollar up to 100. I heard you'll support this channel. I heard that you can actually get in streams. You can hop in to drafts with us in the live stream. Just a rumor. But thank you for bringing that to my attention. I figured maybe we should bring that up. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Matt says, Najee Harris versus 2 2023 first, Andy Hemines. I probably prefer Najee Harris, if we're going to be honest. Matt says, what would a wide receiver target be if I was combining Albert O and DJ Chark? You're not getting much, my man. You're not getting much. Nobody's really going to be paying too much for DJ Chark right now. If we go through, pull up just wide receivers on Keep Trade Cut, if we could trade like Albert O and DJ Chark, if we could get Michael Thomas right now is wide receiver 49 on Keep Trade Cut. Dear God, I would 100% go and make that deal today. Are we just going to go Gus Edwards and... F it, we'll just go Gus Edwards and Wandale. Oh, this team is, this may be the worst team I've ever drafted on Underdog by far and away. What I want to do is I want to look at the teams that I draft on the Dynasty channel versus our main channel. Like we're here, I'm answering questions and not looking at the draft board at all until we're up on the clock. And try to compare the two. But yeah, I mean, right now you have Michael Thomas as wide receiver 49 on Keep Trade Cut, like literally behind Christian Kirk. If we could go and take DJ Chark and Albert O and trade him for Michael Thomas, I'm doing that yesterday. Now our next question is going to be coming out from Tyler says, I believe I'm a contender. Starting lineup is Russell Wilson or Jalen Hurts, Eckler, Dobbins, Lamb, Kupp, Deontay, Andrews, and then Jacobs and Ayuk are my best options for the flex. Okay, well, great team, my man. I mean, if you're going to be having either Russell Wilson or Jalen Hurts on your bench every single week and you have Ayuk on your bench most weeks until we get to the bye, I think you're probably in a pretty good spot. Okay, so now our next question will be coming out here from Caden. Says, Mark Andrews, CeeDee Lamb, predicting what we were going to do at the turn. We ended up going Deontay Johnson, but yeah, pretty close, my man, pretty close. Now, our next question coming out from Clint says, I'm not bothering with Christian McCaffrey this year. I would not blame anybody for passing on Christian McCaffrey, especially if you're going to be talking about Dynasty fantasy football, because the risk with Dynasty are significantly more than a risk with, like, say you hop in underdog, you hop in a best ball draft, right? You're in a $5 draft, you take CMC in the first, and then he goes down. Oh, boo-hoo, you lost $5. At the end of the day, is that big of a deal? Probably not. But you just get to hit the refresh button next year. Whereas in a Dynasty league, is that the situation you're in? No, you're not in that situation. In a Dynasty league, all of a sudden, you are going to have to go through, deal with the repercussions, deal with the consequences of missing on that Christian McCaffrey pick for years to come. And real quick, we have a question coming out from John. Says, any more drafts after this? Question mark. My man, you know we're getting a draft going after this. This is all we do all day, every single day. Yes, we're going to get another draft going after this one. Okay, Clint says, I'm joining underdog because some of these people draft so bad. Yeah, we drafted really bad on this one, but do not judge me on this. You know what we're going to do? I'm tired of looking at this draft board. I'm going to get ready for another draft. I just need to queue up some players here. Of course, we're going to continue to answer questions and everything of the sort. Let me queue up some guys, act like this draft never happened, and we can all move on collectively. I do not want to ever see this draft board ever again. Please do not bring this up to me. Let's just completely ignore this, please. Collectively, we're going to completely ignore this. And we're just going to hop into another one of these $5 puppy drafts for anybody who's interested. Hopefully we don't embarrass ourselves this time. Okay, this is full right away. We are full in here. Okay, so we are going to be drafting at the 108. I'm more comfortable at the 108. We are at the 108. We are going to have to go up against J.K. Ooper. He is a part of the flock. That is going to be tough. We're going to have to go up against Dab K, who's a part of the flock as well. But I think we'll be fine. I think we'll be fine. Okay, so now let's find our next question. This one's coming out from Henry. Says, I took Williams over Treylon Burks to the 105. We will see how this works out in 2 years. Please let me know in the chat. I'm going to scroll to the bottom of the chat so I can see all the recent messages right now. Let me know, are y'all taking Jameson Williams over someone like Treylon Burks? And if so, why? Like, why would you do that? What has to happen where Ryan Tannehill, we've seen Tannehill be a top 10 quarterback in terms of his adjusted yards per pass attempt in 2020, in 2019, whereas Jared Goff in Detroit almost has no shot to provide that level of quarterback play. And on top of that, you have Amon-Ra St. Brown. Not only do you have Amon-Ra St. Brown, you have DJ Chark for this season. You have TJ Hawkinson for the long term. You have DeAndre Swift there as well. We know DeAndre Swift is going to have a significantly higher target share than pretty much any other running back that you're going to see in the NFL. So I don't understand the thought process. Really, do you ever consider taking Jameson Williams over Treylon Burks, who's arguably going to get better quarterback play? And on top of that, he's less target competition. And he was a wide receiver we had ranked higher coming into the draft. I understand, yeah, if you're an NFL team, I understand why you would take Jameson Williams and his speed with how he can stretch the field and affect NFL defenses. But I'm not an NFL general manager. I don't think you are either. I think we're trying to score fantasy points here. Okay, so now Classic says, does it make any sense to pass on Jameson Williams at the 106 for James Cook? No, it does not make sense. You should take Chris Olave. You should take Chris Olave. I'm not really thinking about it too much. Go with Olave. Go with the wide receiver that dominated in 2020 with almost 40% of the production on a per game basis at Ohio State. And let's go ahead. Let's take Kelsey here. Okay, let's find our next one. Keanu says, how does everyone feel about Justin Ross? Love Justin Ross before the NFL draft. If you look at Justin Ross, this was a wide receiver that outproduced T. Higgins. When Justin Ross was 18 years old at Clemson, he outproduced T. Higgins in terms of his receiving yards per game. And T. Higgins was older Then we look at Hunter Renfrow in that same offense, Amari Rodgers in that same offense, both NFL wide receivers who were older than Justin Ross. Justin Ross outproduced them as well. Justin Ross, I believe off the top of my head, had about 69 receiving yards on a per game basis his freshman season at Clemson versus about, it was like 36 for Hunter Renfrow, who was a senior, maybe a fifth-year senior. Like, Justin Ross had a ton of upside. What we were saying going into the NFL draft is we were going to have to wait. We are going to have to look at the NFL draft capital because I'm not a doctor and we didn't know how serious that neck injury was for Justin Ross, even though we had heard at the time that it was serious enough where Justin Ross may never play football again. So we were saying, okay, if Justin Ross goes in the third round, we are going to look at the upside for Justin Ross. I'm going to go through and I'm going to take Justin Ross everywhere I can. But if Justin Ross falls to day 3, that tells us that NFL team doctors were able to evaluate him and to say, okay, yeah, no, this is a serious issue. This is something we don't want to be messing with. Not only did he fall to day 3, the man went undrafted. So yeah, I am personally just going to be going through and avoiding Justin Ross. I think if you're talking about picking him up in the middle of the 4th round of a Dynasty rookie draft, there I will be fine. But I'm not taking him at the beginning of the 3rd. Like, I never considering him in the same range as someone like Jalen Tolbert. Okay, so let's find another question. This one is coming out from Caden. Says, what do you think of this trade? Traded Patrick Mahomes and Tyreek Hill before the Hill trade. Okay, so I'm assuming it's going to look good. Okay, I'm going to try to get back into a time machine, go to a time where Tyreek Hill was still in Kansas City, and you traded Mahomes and Tyreek for Herbert, Josh Jacobs, Jalen Waddle, Michael Pittman. Okay. So yeah, Caden out here just flexing on everyone. You know it's a great trade, my man. You know it's a great trade. CXK says, should I trade away Tua and Waddle for Deshaun Watson? My other quarterbacks are Trevor Lawrence, Trey Lance, and Kenny Pickett. I would. Like, if we go through, if you look at Deshaun Watson, the worst ceiling we have ever seen, the worst season we have ever seen from Deshaun Watson on a points per game basis, he was the quarterback 6 in fantasy. The worst season we have ever had from Watson, the quarterback 6 in fantasy. This is someone that you can almost lock into a top 5 finish every single year going forward. Yes, we may miss some time this upcoming year, but I still think Watson's someone we should value in round 1. Now, our next question coming out from Patrick says, don't try to project future first-round landing spots. Just value it as a 2023 first without getting into tiers. Do you even watch this guy's videos? Thank you, Patrick, for coming out here and spewing the truth. Saying, guys, it's June 6th. It's so hard to predict what happens this upcoming season. So damn hard. Don't try to project these picks too far out. I mean, I saw someone in the chat the other day tell me, oh, it's going to be a late 2024 first. Like, are you freaking kidding me? That's something I used to say whenever I played Dynasty in like 2015, and I really wanted to get like my little Madden hat on and go, okay, yeah, I know exactly what's going to happen. You don't know what's going to happen. There's so much uncertainty. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Trey says, 12-team Superflex. We need to start 2 wide receivers and 3 flex spots. Someone wants Hollywood Brown. What is a good return? Is it reasonable to get a 2023 first and a lesser wide receiver? Honestly, no. I would be very surprised if you're able to pull that off. I mean, if you can, congrats. More power to you. But I doubt it's happening. Now, what do we want to do here? Take a pick that people hate. I don't care. We're going to go Jalen Waddle. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Corey. It says, actually, no, we already answered that one. Vinny says, would you trade Elijah Mitchell in a 2022 second for Kadarius Toney? Tried endlessly to get a first, and it seems like I can't make it happen. Yeah, obviously a 2023 first and Kadarius Toney for Elijah Mitchell would be easy. A second here, I think this is an interesting question, and you could go back and forth with it. I would probably be fine taking Toney. I mean, we've said this so many times before, but if we go through and if you look at Kadarius Toney with his yards per route run this season, the reason you're looking at yards per route run is Kadarius Toney dealt with injuries. This is a wide receiver that had to leave games halfway through. So if you're looking at his per game numbers, it's very skewed. But he had 2.2 yards per route run. The only wide receivers with more yards per route run this past season, CeeDee Lamb, Tyreek Hill, T. Higgins, Tyler Lockett, Jamar Chase, Deontay Harris, A.J. Brown, Justin Jefferson, Antonio Brown, Devontae Adams, Deebo Samuel, Cooper Kupp. Those were the wide receivers with more yards per route run than Kadarius Toney this past year. I kind of want to bet on that talent. I kind of do. So I would be fine going through and taking Elijah Mitchell and flipping him for Toney and the future second as well, because they went out there, they took Tyrion Davis-Price in the third round. Tyrion Davis-Price, he doesn't look like he is an elite running back by any means, but this is someone who can do a lot. I mean, he can do a little bit of everything. Okay. So now our next question coming out from Matthew says, next offseason comes, how much would you give up to get the 101 and a one quarterback to get Bijan Robinson? It's way too early for me to answer that question, my man. I mean, obviously, I went to the University of Texas, hook 'em horns. I am going to be losing my mind. Y'all know I called Breece Hall right after we had the NFL Combine a top 5 Dynasty running back when he was going as the running back 20, according to DLF ADP. And look where he's going now, top 5 Dynasty running back. I'll flex on everybody real quick for that. But I will be so aggressive on our guy, Bijan Robinson, whenever he does come out next year. I will be very biased, and I'll have to give the disclaimer every time I bring him up, though. Okay, so let's find our next question. This is going to be coming out from Chow says, I have 5 2023 first-round picks next year, and my starting lineup is impossible to draft in a redraft setting. Am I going to take over this league in a 12-team one quarterback format? Yes, because the thing is, if you have a ridiculous starting lineup and you have 5 2023 first, even if, like, say, oh, crap, I had Patrick Mahomes, he just went down. Hell, you can take 3 of those first and flip them for Herbert. You can take 2 of those first and go and flip them for Lance. Like, that's the power of having those first-round picks during the season. If you are just if you're a cruise ship, right? You're a cruise ship, you're a dominant force in your league, and then all of a sudden, oh crap, you hit an iceberg. If you have those 2023 first, that's like having just an engineering crew on board that can go through and they have all the tools they need to be able to fix that ship and keep it going throughout the season. 100% great situation to be in. And real quick, we have not said this in this draft. You know I'm going to say this every single draft. Please, if you have not done so already, go down there to the link in the description. Click it. It will take you to Underdog Fantasy. That is where we are having all these drafts every single day. I am drafting these teams in the morning. I am drafting these teams on the live stream at night because there's nothing more fun than hopping into real money fantasy football drafts. And if you go hop into a draft with us in the live stream or just go sign up and you use promo code FLOCK, they will match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100. Not only will they match your first deposit dollar for dollar up to $100, but you'll also get our 2022 Dynasty rankings. You will get our 2022 Dynasty Rookie Draft Guide, which is over 130 pages. And you'll support this damn channel. So please take advantage of that. Go hop into draft with us in the live stream or just have some fun in the public lobby. You can find the link in the description. Well, let's find our next question. It's coming out from AJ. It says, what would be a fair return you'd look to get if you owned Kyler in his 6-point passing touchdown format? Looking to downgrade slightly at quarterback and pick up another piece or two. Okay, so if it's a 6-point passing touchdown league, I would be more willing to move on from Kyler knowing that the rushing isn't going to make as much of an impact, whereas in a 4-point passing touchdown league, I'm really looking to hold on to him. I would love in a 6-point passing touchdown league, to move down to Russell Wilson, to move down to Matthew Stafford. Those traditional pocket passing options that, yes, aren't going to pick you up anything on the ground, but their passing efficiency and the passing touchdowns overall may be enough to get you there this upcoming season. Okay. So, dear God. What do we do here, ladies and gentlemen? What do we do here? I'm sorry, we'll get to the questions in 1 second. Bateman goes at pick 54. I was not expecting Bateman. Dab K, a member of the flock on the clock. They took Nick Chubb in the 3rd. Diggs, Deontay Johnson, and Mark Andrews as well, rounding out this team. They go Mario. Okay, so we have an easy pick. We are going to go with Ezekiel Elliot. I was wondering if we were going to go with the bully tight end strategy. I guess we don't have to do it when we get Zeke falling to us as our running back 1 at the end of the 5th round. I think that'll be an easy selection. Okay, so let's find our next question. This one's going to come out from, I believe, Brandon says, Carr, Waller, and Waddle, or Kyler Murray, Zach Ertz, and Devontae Smith in a Superflex tight end premium format. Okay, so Waddle and Carr versus Kyler. I probably prefer Kyler. Then Waller versus Ertz and Smith. I'd probably stick with Kyler Murray, Zach Ertz, and Devontae Smith. Like, I love me some Kyler Murray. I think if you look at how he faded at the end of the year, a lot of that was due to the injury, not only to himself, but also to DeAndre Hopkins. I think this upcoming season with the addition of Hollywood Brown opening up the overall offense, I think you can be very excited about Kyler. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Dillon says, my league is transitioning from a 1 quarterback to a Superflex next season. How do you recommend going about that? Everyone chooses 1 quarterback to keep or what? That is a fine decision if y'all are saying that it has to be Superflex next year. My favorite way to transition a Dynasty League from a 1 quarterback to a Superflex format will say it's going to be Superflex in 2024. It'll be a Superflex in 2024. We're going to play this season as a 1 quarterback, while next season as a 1 quarterback, but everybody needs to start preparing for Superflex in 2024. I think that's a fine balance, but if y'all want to make it 2023, which I would understand that as well, I would be fine with you making it, hey, you can only keep 1 QB. Okay. So now our next question coming out from Casio says, if I decide to hold DK Metcalf, should I try to move AJ Brown or Jalen Waddle for Travis Etienne? Honestly, I would hold all those wide receivers. Like in Dynasty, I don't see the reason to panic and go through and move those wide receivers just yet. I love me some Travis Etienne as well. But come on, it's AJ Brown. It's Jalen Waddle. It's Ezekiel Elliot. I don't think that's something you have to do. We're going to take Juju Smith-Schuster here. I don't love the value of Juju Smith-Schuster in redraft this season, but hell, we have the stack with Patrick Mahomes. He falls about 10 picks beyond his ADP. I would have taken Josh Jacobs if he made it to us in the 6th, but J.K. Uber decided to snipe us on him anyway. Okay, so now let's find our next question coming out from Tyler. It says, 10-team, 1 quarterback format. Would you trade Najee Harris for Josh Jacobs, Ronald Jones in a 2023 first? In a 1 quarterback format, I probably just prefer holding on to Najee Harris, especially in the 10-team league. In a 10-team, 1 quarterback format, you're going to be prioritizing just keeping those studs. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Keanu says, I don't know, I feel like Stafford and Swift and a second for Justin Herbert and Javonte Williams is a good deal. Oh, you easily prefer Justin Herbert and Javonte Williams. Like Stafford and DeAndre Swift in a second for Javonte Williams and Justin Herbert? Like, Javonte Williams and Swift are close to being in the same tier. I would prefer DeAndre Swift. But the gap between Herbert and Stafford, like Herbert is truly a cornerstone asset to build your team around for the next, I don't want to say decade. I hate when people say that in Dynasty Fantasy Football. But still, Herbert is one of those players that you just cannot move unless someone's overpaying, and they're not overpaying here by moving Stafford and Swift for him. Okay, so now our next year. Corey says, makes sense. Just in my 2nd year doing Dynasty, still learning. LOL. Never had anyone like Pitts. Used to building around wide receiver and running back. All good, Corey. And of course, thank you, my man, for being a part of the flock. And happy to hear that you are falling in love with Dynasty Fantasy Football. Happy to see that you are out in a live stream only in your 2nd season playing Dynasty. There's nothing better than Dynasty Football. Now, I do love best ball, like the teams we were drafting here. My preference, and we have a lot of flock locals leagues like this, Dynasty best ball. Like if Underdog can somehow, some way start making Dynasty best ball leagues, yeah, I'll probably start just live streaming for 24 hours a day. Like I don't know if I would ever leave this seat. Okay. So now Jan says, did I hear Bijan Robinson? My man, oh my God, you're going to get banned next year. I already know we're going to have to ban you next year. We're going to have to ban you in 2023, and then we're also going to have to ban you in 2024 with Xavier Worthy as well. Okay, so Chow says, thanks, Mason. I appreciate it. Biggest question is my quarterback position, but I have Etienne, Swift, Hall, Higgins, AJ Brown, Mark Andrews, DJ Moore, Devontae Smith, quarterback, Lawrence, and Jalen Hurts. I honestly would just stick it. I mean, right now, if you look at it, Jalen Hurts will be a quarterback 1 this season. I do have questions around his long-term job security in Dynasty in particular, but hell, we can always make a play next offseason if we need to. There's a chance that you're looking at Trevor Lawrence being a top 24 quarterback. at Jalen Hurts being a top 5 option like he was last year, especially now that he has A.J. Brown. You have the stack with A.J. Brown as well. I think you have a great team, my man. I'm looking to hold on. I think you said you have a you have 520. Yeah, you have 520, 23 first as well. Like if we get to the season and Lawrence isn't performing and you really want to push in, hell, trade one of those first and Lawrence, make the move then. But let's wait and see what we have. Scooby says trade J.K. Dobbins for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and Allen Robinson. Honestly, up to you. Up to you. I think it's a decent idea if you could flip. Like if we could say trade J.K. Dobbins for Clyde Edwards-Helaire and J.K. Dobbins, and Allen Robinson, and then flip like Allen Robinson in a second for a future first, I would really like that. And I'm sorry, I'm starting to stumble over my words. I am on our 3rd or 4th draft right now. We've been getting 3 or 4 of these drafts in every single night, but it is frying my brain. Okay. Keanu says, yeah, low-key, Mike Evans is a touchdown machine, plus they lost Godwin. My man. It's not like low-key Mike Evans is a touchdown machine. Mike Evans has led the NFL in touchdown rate back-to-back seasons. Mike Evans is... If we're talking touchdown machines, the touchdown machine. Nobody comes close to Mike Evans if you're looking at his touchdown rate. Now, Max coming out says, would you trade Mike Evans and Miles Sanders for Aaron Jones and Darnell Mooney? Honestly, up to you, Max. Up to you. I think it's a fair deal. Danny says, hey, Mason, big fan. Was wondering what your thoughts are on Sutton and Amon-Ra St. Brown this season. I have Sutton as a wide receiver 2 and Brown as a flex in Dynasty. Thank you, my man, for supporting the channel. I'll say maybe not that big of a fan if you're asking me my thoughts on Cortland Sutton. With Sutton, he has averaged 4.5 points per game over the 11 games he's played with Jerry Judy in his career. Jerry Judy's almost doubled him on a points per game basis in games they played together in that 11-game sample. Jerry Judy's almost 4 years younger than Cortland Sutton. Cortland Sutton's highest finish ever at the position was wide receiver 25, a high-end wide receiver 3 on a points per game basis, and he's going to be 27 this upcoming season. Now, very smart drafters on Underdog Fantasy, very smart drafters are telling me I don't know what I'm doing because they are drafting Sutton aggressively. Do we just take Lance here? I know we're reaching on Lance. I get it. Yes. But we have Ayuk and Debo. If this team's going to be any good, Lance has to be the next Patrick Mahomes, which is unlikely, but it's unlikely we turn $5 into $75,000. Okay. And Amon-Ra St. Brown, I actually think Amon-Ra St. Brown's a fine value right now. I mean, this was a player that we were talking about being overvalued at the beginning of the offseason because they were going to add in competition, but they did add in competition that reflects his price. Like Amon-Ra St. Brown is significantly cheaper in Dynasty now than he was. So yeah, I'm fine with this price point with where it stands. Okay, so John coming out with our next question. This says, should I trade DK Metcalf for Jerry Judy plus question mark? 12-team, 2-quarterback format. I have Russell Wilson and Dak Prescott. Other wide receivers are DK Metcalf, T. Higgins, Darnell Mooney, Robert Woods, and Kadarius Toney. I have rookie picks 1, 2, 9, 13, 14, and 16. Yeah, I love the idea of taking DK Metcalf and trading him for a package including Jerry Judy. Like, what's really funny, and this is why I do think you are going to become a better Dynasty fantasy football player if you just hop into some of these underdog drafts. Like, literally just go deposit $10, promo code FLOCK, hop into 4 of these $5 drafts, and you will see that almost every single redraft league, and this is an ADP list that has had over $1 million worth of drafts in it. Like, this is a very sharp list. Like, you are not going to find a better ADP list than this. Jerry Judy is going before DK Metcalf in redraft right now. Jerry Judy is younger than DK Metcalf. However, if you look at Keep Trade Cut, if you look at Dynasty Fantasy Football Leagues, you are going to see Metcalf going significantly before Judy, despite going behind him in redraft and being older. Now, I'm not going to say that Jerry Judy should be ranked ahead of him in Dynasty just because he is in redraft. No, of course I can't say that because you could eventually see the quarterback situation get better in Seattle. And on top of that, with Jerry Judy, he's going to be playing with Tim Patrick. He's going to be playing with KJ Hamler. He's going to be playing with Cortland Sutton next year as well, or who knows about Tyler Lockett in Seattle. But my point is, they should at least be in a similar tier. So if we could say trade DK Metcalf in a second and get Jerry Judy in a first, dear God, that is a no-brainer, a deal that should never be possible, but it is, and you should take advantage. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Trey says, underdog best ball, which combo do you prefer, Kyler Murray and Hollywood Brown or Derek Carr and Devontae Adams? Probably Derek Carr and Devontae Adams. I mean, with Adams, even though he is in a significantly worse position, he's still an elite level wide receiver, which I don't think we can say that with Hollywood. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Brian says, what are your opinions on punt and kick return points in Dynasty? In a 12-team Superflex league with 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, and 4 flexes, with it turned on, and it looks like an overall positive since it just adds value. I have played in leagues where you do get points for kick return yards, punt return yards. I know a lot of people like it. It wasn't for me. I wasn't a big fan, if I'm going to be completely honest. I see the appeal, especially when you have to do more work, when you have to look into, okay, what wide receivers are racking up these points. I've talked about this before also in regards of IDP. I am trying to be the best that I can at a very specific thing. I am trying to look at a very specific player pool and go, okay, well, in a half PPR format, in a full PPR format, in a tight end premium, in a non-tight end premium, in a super flex, in a non-super flex, I know what to do. As soon as we start adding in variables like that, like kick return yards, punt return yards, it almost becomes too much for me to track, where I feel like I have to give away some of the edges that I have in that I can spend 80 hours a week just focusing in on fantasy football projections, just focusing in on roster construction for very specific formats and very specific scoring. So I'm sorry, it's not for me. I know a lot of other people like it. And if you like it, hell, great. I hope you find 11 other people to play it with you. Okay. We have a donation coming out. Cameron, thank you so much, my man. Says, is playing defense during a draft worth it? Guy had the 104 and the 106, and I drafted Chase at the 105 to avoid him getting the Burrow and Chase stack. If it's going to be a dynasty league where you feel like you can then maybe leverage, say you have the 105, he had the 106, and you know he's targeting Chase, and you think that you can go through and you can draft Chase and then go, hey man, I'll trade you Jamar Chase for the 106, and I also want your 9th round startup pick. I also want your 11th round startup pick. Just get something on top and be able to leverage that into a deal. Then I like it. Quote unquote, playing defense is going to be great because if you think about it, you're going up against 11 other owners. So if you make a decision where you are consciously losing out on some value, even if it's just a little bit, to hurt another owner in your league, when you have to beat 11 of them, if you do that every round, you are going to have the worst team in the league. You'll maybe knock every other team down one peg, but if you're knocking your team down a peg every time you decide to make that decision, then in the process, you get knocked down 11 pegs where everybody else gets knocked down 1. Probably a bad explanation behind it, but I don't like the idea of that unless you think you can leverage it into another deal. Okay. Let's go ahead and take Devin Singletary here as our running back 2. Very interesting team so far. I don't think it's that bad. Better than the last one. I'll say that. Okay, so Michael says, what is the value of a top 5 tight end? Depends if you're talking Dynasty Fantasy Football tight end premium. It depends if you're talking about best ball. I love going and getting an elite level tight end if we're looking at these underdog best ball drafts. Dynasty, I think it matters a little bit less. Cal says, I'm a contender. Would you trade Joe Mixon for Saquon Barkley in the 2023 first? My other running backs are Javonte Williams and Travis Etienne. Hell yes. Hell yes. Hell yes. Hell yes. I do have Joe Mixon ranked a tier ahead of Saquon Barkley in our Dynasty rankings right now. But picking up that 2023 first is a no-brainer in that you're essentially saying, well, who knows? Who knows? Maybe, just maybe, Joe Mixon doesn't outproduce Saquon Barkley this upcoming season. Saquon Barkley is a younger running back. And if the uncertainty, which is 100% in the range of outcomes, Saquon Barkley ends up outproducing Joe Mixon and you pick up a 2023 first, you have so much upside with that deal where the downside isn't really there. Okay, so our next question coming out from Zachary says, a 4th draft tonight, question mark. Maybe. How about this? Okay, we are halfway through our third draft right now. If we get 300 likes in this live stream, which this live stream has had about 1,600 views so far. So I think 300 likes isn't too much to ask for. And I am asking for a lot because this is our fourth stream. I'm sure y'all can hear my voice is toast. I ran out of water like 10 minutes ago. We will get a fourth draft going. Okay. 300 likes in the live stream and we will get a fourth draft going. Okay. So now our next question coming out from Ari says, in a one quarterback league, would you trade the 202, 206, 207, 208, and the 301 for Travis Etienne? Yes, I would. Yes, I would. Yes. I mean, if we just go through and look at that, you're going to be moving on from players like Damian Pierce, Rashad White, Isaiah Spiller. Actually, I would love to see the names attached to that. I really would. We have a donation question coming out from Joseph. Thank you, my man. It says, Leonard Fournette, a 2023 first and the 401, or David Montgomery and the 202 in a 10-team, one quarterback PPR startup. Running backs we currently have are Nick Chubb, Aaron Jones, David Montgomery, and Elijah Mitchell. I'm not going to be reading it as a late 2023 first. I think it's very hard to project those picks a year out in advance right now. Unless you go, okay, Mason, come on. This team has Josh Allen. This team has Mahomes. This team has Jonathan Taylor. This team has Saquon Barkley. This team is loaded. Then fine. Fine. But usually if that's the case, if it's usually one of those over-the-top juggernaut teams, people say they'll likely 112. Like usually people don't just go, oh, it's late first. But Leonard Fournette in the first versus David Montgomery in the 202, I am going to prefer Leonard Fournette in the first. Honestly, even if it's a late first in a 10-team format, I'm going to prefer that. And Tunchi coming out says, Mason is a draft machine. Yeah, my man, you know we get 3 or 4 of these drafts going every single. It's legitimately because these drafts on Underdog are just so damn fun. Like I literally do this in the morning. I do this all the time. There's a reason. There's a reason why I partnered with Underdog Fantasy this year, and it's because I would be doing these drafts regardless if they were our partner or not. Okay, so let's go Kenny Golladay here at pick 128. I think we're going to get a running back making it back to us regardless. And we've already got the double stack between Kelsey and Juju Smith-Schuster with Patrick Mahomes, so I'm not dying to grab Mecole Hardman. I'm not dying to grab Ronald Jones. And we're going to have to draft 6 running backs regardless on this team, so I think it's kind of fine if we end up even missing out on one of these RBs. Like the difference between Pierce and Michael Carter for me, not really big. Okay, so now our next question coming out from Brian says, a Bateman or Amon-Ra St. Brown in a Dynasty League? I think it's up to you. I do think it's personal preference. Like if I go through right now and pull up, say, keep trade cut, I will say on Underdog Fantasy, you're consistently seeing Rashad Bateman go before Amon-Ra St. Brown. Let me see how it is on keep trade cut. Okay, good. Devontae Parker off the board. We have 6 wide receivers on this team. Van Jefferson off. Good, good, good. When we have Debo, Waddle, Juju, Ayuk, Lazard, Kenny Golladay, we kind of want wide receivers going. Okay, right now, Keep Trade Cut has Amon-Ra St. Brown as wide receiver 31. Bateman, wide receiver 24. I'm honestly surprised by that. I think it's a lot closer. I guess if it's consensus that Underdog is Bateman higher and Keep Trade Cut does as well, and I thought it was really up to you, probably should just end up going with Rashad Bateman. Okay. So let's find our next question. Our next question coming out from Tyler says, 10-team, one quarterback format. How do you feel about Najee Harris for Cam Akers, Kyren Williams in a 2023 first? Okay, so you're essentially trading Najee Harris for Cam Akers in a 2023 first. If it's a 10-team league, I'm fine going through and taking Cam Akers because Cam Akers does have that upside. He did profile to be a 3-down running back coming out of Florida State. Now, yes, the issue is we haven't seen him have a role in the receiving game yet. I'm not too concerned about the lack of efficiency he had during the playoff stretch this past season because the man literally was like 6 months removed from a torn Achilles. He shouldn't have even been playing football. I think it's a fair deal over. Y'all asking some really good questions tonight. A lot closer than usual. Dan coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says, big fan of the channel. What side would you take on the deal? We have a half PPR, 12-team, one quarterback dynasty league. We have CMC, a 2023 second. That's late. For Darnell Mooney, a 2024 second and a 2023 first. Let's just say the 2023 second, 2024 second, they're both future second round picks. Let's remove them. CMC or Darnell Mooney in the 2023 first. 12-team, one quarterback format. That first round pick is going to be worth a little bit less. I would say if you're a contender, go CMC. If you're a rebuilder, consider the first. Try to get a little bit more. Ryan coming out with a donation. Thank you, my man. Says, donated earlier, had the 12-team non-Superflex PPR. Okay, yeah, no, I think Ryan had the massive donation at the very beginning of the live stream where he flexed on everyone. Said, should I move a Dallas Goedert for a 2023 first? This would give me 5 of the 12 first-round picks in 2023. Yes, I would make that deal easily. I don't think we really have to talk about it. What I can do is I can use the conversation topic, at least of Dallas Goedert, to spring forward and say, Goddard's in an interesting spot in that if you look at the efficiency that he showed from a yards per route run standpoint last year, he was almost at the very top of the tight end position with yards per route run. Now, the issue is you have A.J. Brown coming over. A.J. Brown's presence is not only going to negatively impact Devontae Smith, like he will take targets away from Smith, but he's also going to take usage away from Dallas Goedert. Like that is not a good situation to be in if you are a Dallas Goedert owner, if you are a Dallas Goedert fan. I wish I could spin it in another light. Okay, so we are about to be on the clock. And I'm sorry, ladies and gentlemen. It's closing on 10 p.m. My voice is toast. Absolute shot, and I have no water. I'm sweating. Y'all can see it in the light. I need to stop wearing these suits during the live stream if we're going to stream so long. I can do it during videos, but during a stream, it becomes unbearable. I probably am going to have to cut the stream here. Let me show off this strap board with what we've had so far. And of course, I do owe everyone a massive thank you for coming out to the live stream. I am going to continue to do these live streams every single day until the start of the year with these drafts. So please, if you have not done so already, go sign up for Underdog Fantasy with the link in the description or the link in the live chat. Use promo code FLOCK. You'll get our Dynasty rankings. You'll get our Dynasty rookie rankings. You'll get our Dynasty rookie draft guide over 130 pages. Literally with just a $10 deposit. That stuff sold for like $50 on our website. People pay $50 for it when they could just deposit $10 and get it on Underdog. And it will be free because they match your deposit. And you can have some fun getting in these drafts with us. I mean, literally in these drafts all the time. There's nothing more fun. And thank you, of course, everyone. I truly do appreciate you. I do hope you have a great day. And I hope that I get to see you with the video tomorrow and the live stream tomorrow night.